Well, good morning, everyone. I will now call to order the June 18th, 2025 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Business Meeting. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll for us?
Yes, Chair, thank you. First, our staff support today, County Counsel Jane Vetto, Clerk to the Board, Andrew Jaraki. Welcome all 5 commissioners present. Glad to have you here. Roll call, Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Helm.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. Thank you, Gary. Now, will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We have quite a busy schedule for today. So before we begin our regular general public communication, I understand there are 2 time-sensitive board decision items that we must attend to first. So Gary, would you please introduce the first board discussion item for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. And the first item actually is going to be a public discussion item. We didn't notice that, we didn't title that correctly, but I'm doing it right now, and that is item 1, County Council recruitment. So Commissioners, you've known this for a while now, but let me publicly state it if people are not following along. Jane Vetto, our esteemed County Counsel, will be leaving the county. She is taking a position at another organization, and this is her last business meeting with us. And Jane, you've been incredible and phenomenal, and we thank you for your service to Clackamas County, and I greatly enjoyed working with you. And the board has selected in the interim Billy Williams, who's sitting right next to her, to serve in the interim county council role through his law firm Best Krieger, LLP. Billy's a former Oregon United States Attorney for Oregon, former Senior Deputy District Attorney for Multnomah County. So he knows county government, local government, public safety, serving in the community. So Billy, thank you for your service in the short term while the county now opens a recruitment for a permanent county council. There is a memo that's in your packet and posted online. Per Oregon Revised Statute 192.6607C, we must have a chance for you to hear from the public about the process for hiring a county council, because these are one of your 2 executives who report directly to the board, the other being myself, the county administrator. So today I'm going to quickly overview the profile for the position and the process you will follow. And then we have to invite the public a chance to comment. So anyone in the room or listening online, if you have feedback, we'll call you up here shortly. And then after that's concluded, that is meeting the requirement by Oregon law that allows you later to have executive sessions to interview candidates and to discuss the hiring process. And that's done really to protect the confidentiality of applicants who may not be hired. We protect their confidentiality through the executive session process. So that's why we do this, and that's why we're here today. So it's online, and it's on the screen, Andrew, if we'd like to show that. The profile is actually the same profile you published before during the prior recruitment for this role. You have retained the firm Prothman to run this recruitment for you, and Prothman did this recruitment in the past. The starting salary range for this position, as you see on the screen, is $209,184,000 to $282,350,000. That's a starting salary range, of course, up for negotiation between the board and the candidate you choose. I'm not going to go over the exact profile, but it's posted online, and Andrew's quickly scrolling through there. But quickly, I do want to overview the process, the hiring procedures for this process. These are the same hiring procedures you used last time. First step is to develop a tailored recruitment strategy. You've actually already done that up to this point. Second is to post a profile, which you will post this Monday, June 23rd, unless you hear significant feedback today. Next is to identify, target, recruit viable candidates. Prothman does that as part of their work to actually recruit candidates to apply for this position. In addition to anyone who's interested can apply. This is a national recruitment, open competitive recruitment. Step 3 is to conduct preliminary screening that Prothman, the firm, will do on your behalf. All applicants will be sent to you, but they will screen them in advance for you and do a ranking for you to consider. You then, commissioners, will review all the applicants and the rankings provided to you by Prothman. You'll do that in executive session and narrow down to between 3 and 5 candidates who you will bring in person to be interviewed here at the county. Prothman does all the material preparation for you. And then you will decide on stakeholder interviews. They're listed in the packet here. Obviously, the Board of Commissioners, you'll review the candidates, interview the candidates. You may include the staff of the County Council's office, other department directors, perhaps a community meeting. You will determine all that in the future here coming up. But those are all open for you to consider. You will interview those candidates, discuss the candidates in executive session, and then when you've made a decision, you'll make a public decision here and make it a hiring decision in public. Probably looking at a September timeframe to make the hiring decision, and hopefully that next person could start late September. So that is the process, a very, very quick overview. Again, it's the same process you used last time. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and then Chair, we'll ask for public comment on this item. Thank you, Commissioners.
Right. So before we go to public comment, any comments by my colleagues? All right, seeing none, by Oregon revised statute, we must ask if the public has any comments on this recruitment. So Clerk, would you please moderate the public comment on this item for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you are attending this meeting in person today and would like to comment on this specific agenda item only, this is your opportunity to please come forward, fill out a blue card that can be found by the door and deposit in the box. I will call on them in the order that they are received. Mr. Chair, I see no members of the public attending in person today wish to comment on this matter. I also see no members of the public currently attending this meeting online. This is a reminder that if you are attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment, to please join via Zoom and raise your hand when the time is right. I will call on you in the order that I see for public comment periods. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So colleagues, any remaining questions about the job posting or recruitment process? Seeing none. If there's no more questions, I'll just remind my colleagues that there is no further action to take on this matter today. We'll move forward with this recruitment, and we'll move on with our agenda for today. So Gary, what is next for us?
Great, thank you, Commissioners. Next is also an item you asked to add today to a board discussion item that you had. You started the conversation Tuesday at Issues this week. This is a draft letter for your review regarding County Financial Assistance Agreement that relates to behavioral health, Oregon Health Authority, and the Oregon Association of Oregon Counties. Mary Rumbaugh, would you please come forward for a quick recap? Mary Rumbaugh is the Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. We emailed you a draft letter, and it's also posted online. Mary, if you could give a quick overview, please.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Mary Rumbaugh, H3S Director. So yesterday I gave a very quick highlight on some concerns that we have with the current County Financial Assistance Agreement. That would be effective July 1st. It's a 6-year agreement. Yesterday we discussed really the county stepping into a role of really wanting to reach out to the governor, to the Oregon Health Authority, as well as the Oregon Health Authority Behavioral Health Director, and really offer and request an opportunity to quickly come together in some kind of format to try to get to resolution. As I said yesterday, when a county or a board wants to take a position about not signing an agreement, my question to the board would be, what does not signing mean? And I think that the options that are out there are not great for our community and the staff who provide the services. So at your direction, County Counsel Ryan Hammond and I drafted this letter. We did have PGA also review it at a high level. I think it's a really collaborative but also clear letter, but would welcome, your guys' conversation. If it would also be okay, I would like to also let you know that I also did receive a call from Ebony Clark, who is the OHA Behavioral Health Director, this morning. She has asked for a meeting with myself and Cheryl Ramirez, who is the Executive Director of AOCMHP. I'm the current president, so it's in that role as current president. They do have a message to pass on from the governor's office that they believe might help get to resolution on the sort of disagreement that we have with this contract. That's scheduled at 11:30, so I obviously would promptly be letting you all know the outcome of that meeting this morning.
Great. So colleagues, questions? I see Two of them. I don't know who got it first. Commissioner West?
Might have been Salvis, but if I don't.
Oh,
whatever.
go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. I know that that was a quick turnaround on that letter. Or got a chance to review the letter. I don't think there were many edits added to it. Commissioner Salvis, the language you suggested, I think, was just the right ending to it and writing that kind of fine line. We were trying to be collaborative problem solvers, but also make clear the situation that this will put the counties in. I anxiously await the next update from you, and that's, this is moving quickly. The goal is that we are able to sign an agreement for the CFAA with the state by July 1st, or at least have it pending and in process. This game of chicken with people's lives is not how we should be doing public policy. We care deeply about this population. We take the care that we give to this population very seriously in our county. But at the same time, to do that work, there are real realities around funding and resources that we need, and allowed to do the work we do well because we're the experts in it, and we're the local health authorities, the local housing authority. And so we have to strike that balance, and so the tone has to change. But I'm proud of this board because I think we're trying to do this, be principled in our approach, but also come across not as adversarial, but let's be collaborative and solutions oriented. How do we get to yes? Again, as like I said yesterday. So thank you for the draft. It's on the screen here. That was a quick turnaround. My one question for you is, what is our conversation like with some of the other large urbanized counties on this issue? Do we have any update with that, or where? I'm sure they're getting calls too. We're not the only one.
They are. I don't have any. I'm aware that Washington County, the individual in my role, was meeting with their commissioners yesterday afternoon. I haven't heard an update either. I do hope that what I hear this morning will be able to quickly get pushed out to the rest of the counties, including AOC, and then really the decision to move forward with your county financial assistance agreement is really an individual county decision. So, certainly there's interest in, general alignment, but ultimately every single county needs to do what's right for, their own county.
Thank you for that update. Again, I know it's a tough situation.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mary. I understand your concerns, what does not signing mean? So that message came across clear on Tuesday and yesterday, or Monday and Tuesday. I think we have to recognize where we are and the people we're serving. I know you do that, right? You've expressed that. So, I've going to use a little bit different words than my colleague, Commissioner West, but, we've used them before, and it is somewhat, knowing that some folks are on the street that should not be on the street. It's almost inhumane, the fact that they've got behavioral health challenges and issues, and they need the help, and they need really a collaborative effort. Government needs to step in that space, and we can't do this without the state. The state's a big player in this. So on behalf, we've got to remember where we are and who we're trying to serve. On behalf of that need, I think that it's good news that you got a response already from OHA. And I hope that we can get this across the finish line in a collaborative way. We owe it to the public.
Agreed.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks, Mary, for all that you do. This is a really unfortunate circumstance where everyone wants the same outcomes, but counties are feeling really marginalized and left out of the discussion. That became very clear to me when I sat with the other counties from the Association of Oregon Counties. And our executive director, Gina, of course, is a mental health professional too. So this has been particularly hard on her as well as she moves forward and tries to negotiate this. My hope is that we can come to agreement soon. I would be very interested in hearing what Washington County is saying, because I was at the meeting with Chair Harrington, and she was also quite adamant. And I would hate to see this turn into a situation where the Oregon Health Authority is in conflict with the majority of the counties in this state. That would be bad for everyone. It will look bad to our constituents. Services won't happen if people, out of frustration and feel as if they have to opt out. It will not be good for the governor's office or the Oregon Health Authority to have those kinds of optics at this time. And there has to be an increased respect, in my opinion, for what we do at the local level with our local public health authorities, because they do have to recognize that because we're on the ground, we know our communities and the needs. You know, I'm talking to the choir when I talk to you. I'm just going to end by saying I'm so sorry this has been stressful for you, because I know you're chair of the whole Association of Mental Health Professionals, so it's been, yeah, don't envy you, but I know what it feels like. Let me put it that way. So thank you, and thank you, colleagues, for the letter. I hope this moves things forward in a positive manner.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Chair, I move we approve the letter as drafted.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the letter. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you. Well, it looks like, Gary, I'm going to turn to
I'm
you
sorry,
first.
Chair, can we take a short recess because the Zoom function is not working for the public to sign in, and that's necessary to do the public hearing part of the budget meetings and public comments. Can we take a very short recess, please?
All right, we'll take a 5-minute recess. There we go. I'll reconvene our Board of County Commissioners, the business meeting, and I will now open the public meeting communication portion of this meeting. So testimony is limited to 3 minutes. I'd ask that comments be respectful and courteous. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as a part of our public record. If you wish to comment specifically on one of the items that we will receive a public hearing on today's agenda, I ask you to please wait until I convene the public hearing on that item in particular. Due to the number of public hearings on today's agenda, this meeting may take longer than usual, and I reserve the right to call breaks as needed, just to give folks a heads up. I will now open the meeting for public testimony on any non-budget items, and I will take in-person testimony first. So clerk, will you help us moderate the in-person and virtual testimony for us?
Thank you, Chair. If you are attending this meeting in person, this is a reminder that if you wish to speak during this or any public comment period, to please fill out a blue card, which can be found on the table by the center doors, and deposit it in the box that can be found there. Once again, as the chair said, this is a reminder that for this item, we are asking for public comment on any non-budget items. As any comments on budget items, we'll have a specific public hearing and public communication portion of that public hearing later on the agenda today. First, I have Chris Guterman. Chris Guterman, please come forward, introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the board's time today. I'm here today as representative and co-chair of the Clackamas County Cultural Coalition, which was recently funded by the county to provide grants to culture, arts, heritage, and other organizations in the county. Our board is all volunteers. There's 7 of us, I believe, now, and we invest a lot of time, and we wanted to give you a kind of a kickoff report on the investment of your funds into the county here. Our grant amount this year was $85,000 we were able to provide for a number of different organizations. We had 51 applications for a total of $289,000 requests, which by and large were very valid and would represent a wonderful investment in the community. We were able to provide grants to 31 organizations, many of them much smaller than their request, but we consider much of this just to be seed money, and sometimes it's just to top up things to make things happen. Everything that we see in the county that seems to me fun to me, we have symphonies, we have festivals, we have art shows, we have all these things going on. And before I joined the board, you just think that's just normal, right? No, it's not normal. There are hundreds and thousands of volunteer hours of your taxpayers that are supporting these organizations, and it's so wonderful to see the board also supported at this time. Our board, I know, invested probably 400, 500 hours in the analysis of these grants, very detailed, many of them from small organizations, many of them from large organizations. And winnowing them down became very difficult, but we tried to spread the money across all the different forms we had. Creative arts, we had music, we had theater, we had dance, we had a lot of orientation towards children's and their exposure to the arts, whether it be the Rex Putnam nationally recognized drumline or the Youth Arts Project, Youth Music Project. We also decided to spread it out fairly evenly across heritage, which is supporting things like the Clackamas County Historic Museum and little functions. Several of the smaller organizations around the state, around the county, received limited funding, and that is things like the Mark Prairie Society out there in Canby. So we also tried to select areas around the county, everything from the north, south, east, and west, Estacada, Canby, Molalla, Oregon City, Lake Oswego, Wilsonville. All those different areas were represented in our grant decisions. And we took it very, very seriously to apply the taxpayers' money in locations where we felt there was bang for the buck. All of these organizations, every dollar that was granted to, is that my time up? Granted to them was leveraged by between 10 and 50 times in donations by taxpayers, donations of time by taxpayers, and outcomes will be reported later. The grant money was just recently distributed, so I'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. And if you could stick around, because I know Commissioner Schrader, once we get through the public comment, she'd like to say something to address you and want to thank you for your volunteer efforts. So if you could stick around just for a few moments.
That'd be great.
So, and I also want to thank the past board members for their support, particularly Ben West. I think you were a driver on this. We look forward to it.
Thank you.
Next, Thelma Hagenmiller. Thelma Hagenmiller, please come forward, introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Roberts and Commissioners. My name is Thelma Hagenmiller. I am a resident of the unincorporated area of Oak Grove in North Clackamas County. I am before you today because you are the Board of Directors for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Coming before you as the NCPRD Board in July will be the selection of the naming of the former Concord Elementary School. The name I submitted included the word cultural. I believe the word cultural alone elevates people's perception of what the Concord property should and could be to the community. It should not be just a community center. We should be allowing programming, such things as arts, music, plays, and other cultural activities in the school, taking advantage of the existing classrooms there. It is a perfect place for community schools programs. I think you are missing an opportunity to approach some of the longtime citizens in our community who could be sponsors of such cultural activities. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Thelma, and I'm sure my colleagues will have a comment in a few minutes as well, so I hope you can stick around just a little bit longer.
Thank you, Ms. Hagenmiller. This is a final call if you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment during general public communication on any non-budgetary item to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the door. Mr. Chair, seeing no other members of the public physically present who wish to comment during in-person public communication today, with your assent, I'll now move to virtual communication. If you are attending this meeting virtually and would like to comment during public general communication on any non-budget related item, please raise your hand and I will call on you in the order that I see. Mr. Les Poole, I see your hand. I'll mute you. You'll have 3 minutes. Mr. Poole, we're unable to hear you if you're speaking right now.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, please, go ahead, Mr. Poole.
Oh, good. I'm not right in town, so I apologize. You got a busy day, so I'll be very brief. I'm sure that in the back of all of your minds, there's concern about what's happening in Salem and what will be funded and what won't. And I want to put out a strong endorsement for some type of activities, some type of future consideration for the transportation bill and funding that's coming out of Salem. Right now, it's kind of a monster. It's hotly debated. And
Mr. Poole, I believe your audio is breaking
it's
up.
really ODOT's responsibility. Sorry, it's breaking. I hope is that we can I'm not sure if I'm coming through clearly, but I don't want to waste anyone's time. That's HB 2025. I encourage the public and the county to stay on top of that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. This is a final call. If you are attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on any item not related to a budget otherwise considered on today's agenda, to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public today, either in person or virtual, who wish to speak.
All right, thank you. Before I move on, I'll close the public portion of the communication, but I wanted to give my colleagues a chance to respond to any public testimony. And Martha, you had your light on, so I'm going to turn to you.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for coming today, sir, to talk about what you've been doing. I was going to make a suggestion. What would be helpful for us if you could, I think you can come up to the podium if you can hear from there. It would be great to see a spreadsheet of what you've done through the year, of all the organizations, with the amount of money that you've put forward, and to give us an idea of the geographic distribution, because the sense is that you're really helping some of the smaller organizations throughout the county. So, and I know this is all volunteer, so I'm asking maybe a lot, but that would be helpful for us. And actually, if you can get it to us after the fact, but in the future too, it'll give me and I think the rest of my colleagues a clear idea of, again, where the distribution is and the whole size and scope of the organizations you've been helping. So,
Please come to the microphone.
yeah,
Please come to the
so
microphone.
yeah.
And to answer your question and give you a little bit of advance notice, this is my kickoff report.
Oh, okay.
The funds are administered by the Clackamas County Arts Alliance and distributed through that, and they have a reporting responsibility that will be upcoming shortly. This was just the kickoff. And at the end of the granting period, there will be a complete report of who got what and what did they do with it. We're preparing the report now that we just recently distributed the funds to provide that information to you, to where did it go and how is it broken down into the different categories. But I will make sure that Diane Alves does that for you.
And that's a clarification, because they are the fiduciary, but they give you the money to distribute, correct?
They are the fiduciary, but they also have the reporting responsibility.
Okay.
So
Okay.
hopefully that will be coming to you very shortly, but we were so excited to have the opportunity.
And we discussed that the other day too, that they're the fiduciary, but you are a volunteer organization that helps distribute the
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah.
Okay,
Delighted to be able to have the opportunity. Thank you again.
okay,
Any
thank you.
further questions?
Commissioner West had a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mike, don't go anywhere yet. You talked, we had a situation with arts funding kind of imploding here in Clackamas County because the RAC regional group that was handling a lot of that really are no longer in existence, and they had their own struggles. And so it left us on a little bit of a lurch to figure out how to still value arts, culture, and community in Clackamas, and how are we going to kind of go about this. And we didn't have a lot of the infrastructure that maybe Portland or Multnomah County may have had, but we very much value the artists and the work that are done in our own county and how important that is. You spoke to, and one of the values to RAC was that they were able to be a big enough organization that could pull from all kinds of different funding and leverage the dollars. So if we put in $1, it might, pay out actually 3 to 1. So that's a great investment anytime you can do that, right? So you alluded to that a little bit, I think, in your comments. Unless I'm incorrect, but you talked about how through other funding sources that you guys are receiving, you're able to kind of stretch those dollars and put them a little and make them go a little further. Am I understanding you correctly? You talked about kind of the impact of other donations you guys are receiving. And if you could speak to that a little bit more.
And I would like to clarify that when the beeper went off for my 3 minutes, it's like, oh, deer in the headlights a little bit. But the point I was trying to make is that for every dollar that's invested by the county, that is supported by dollars from donations to each one of these organizations. People donate to the Historic Society, they donate to the Youth Music Project, they donate to their time for all these different organizations. And so those people are already voting with their feet and their time and their donations. And so that supports what my contention is, that the taxpayers are already supporting it, and that the Clackamas County Commission can also support that with the validation that it's supported by their constituents. Now, unfortunately, because of the economy and everything else, there's never enough donor time, there's never enough donor money to accomplish the things that bring richness and vibrancy to our communities and that we enjoy so much and provide Clackamas the reputation that it has for being a mecca for the arts.
Yeah. And I would love to help get out the word about how the community can engage with your organization a little better. And have some knowledge about it. I think some of that is the spreadsheet, or understanding about the different organizations like Commissioner Schrader had mentioned. But, as we're engaging, I think we're going to an arts festival this weekend.
Yeah, we
together.
are going to
For
Lakers.
Lakewood, the Lakewood, by the way, everybody, go to the Lakewood Arts Festival Theater. I think it starts Thursday night.
There's an opening patron party, which you're welcome to attend with me.
This weekend is open to the whole public, but it's a fantastic arts event, and there's a lot of things like that in our own community, so we encourage you to definitely support it. But we'd like to know what you're doing also, and then how to continue to grow this work that's vital in our community. So thank you for that. Thanks for explaining that and giving a presentation, and we look forward to the next one.
Very good. Just one little other thing. The commission, the Cultural Commission, has always been the funding distributor for the cultural trust monies that come to the county. And that was our primary and ongoing responsibility. The commissioner's granting this year was in addition to that, so we scrambled real quick to put out the grant and do all the decision process. So it kind of doubled the workload. But
Well, it's great because we had a big hole in resources after RAC went under, right? That's just the truth. And we were like, oh my gosh, how do we, with our limited budget in our local budget constraints, how do we help fill that gap? And so, like you mentioned, the Youth Music Project, I talk about them from this dais all the time. I think they're absolutely fundamental and fantastic to our community. And then we talk about Lakewood Theater, and we all could probably go on about different organizations we care about. But you are filling in the gap and bridging it, and this is what we have to do that, and so it's super vital. We appreciate you, and let us know how we can be helpful.
you betcha. We'll be reporting soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Gary had a comment.
We have a full staff presentation for you on this topic. We're just waiting for the paperwork. It'll all become before you at an upcoming session.
Perfect.
I'll have some.
Thank you. Any other comments before we move on? I just wanted to give a shout out to Thelma out there. I know you've been so active in the community in the Oak Grove area. Just want to thank you for all your volunteer efforts, and I always love hearing from you, so thank you very much. Commissioner Savas.
Real quickly, I'm hoping that.
Your mic is up. Your mic is up.
Thanks. Real quickly, just hoping that there's an opportunity to at least look at the tally, and when we meet as the NCPRB Board of Directors in July, we can have a greater discussion. But, you know, how the process works and, you know, what the top 3 or 4 names that were recommended for the naming of the community center would be of interest to me and probably interest everyone else. But I know sometimes it's always tough if a whole bunch of people are, you know, believe that one name ought to be the other. We got to take the community, the poll of the community, so to speak. And I think hopefully that's comes out in the end. But, we'll look deeper.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Savas. Gary?
Yes, thank you. So this has not come before you on the naming of that facility. It will as the district board in July, and you'll have a chance to make a decision and hear all the comment then. Thank you.
All right. Well, now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. So Gary, what is next?
Thank you. Commissioners, now begins 13 public hearings to adopt the county budget and all the 8 special districts that you govern. This is the first one. You're now meeting as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Housing Resident Commissioner Leenstra is not able to join you today, so it's just 5 of you. This is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Total budget amount is $127,212,221. Funding is through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, state funds, metro funds, local project funds, and other local sources. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, and Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will rotate, giving a brief update on this item. Go ahead, please.
Your mic, excuse me. Please go ahead now.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners.
Still not working.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. The Budget Committee reviewed the Housing Authority budget on May 27th, 2025, just 3 weeks ago, and we received public input, and the budget was approved as presented. We respectfully request the approval of the resolution adopting this budget for 25-26 fiscal year, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right. Colleagues, any questions? All right. Seeing none, we will now open the public hearing on this item. Clerk, would you please moderate in-person and virtual testimony on this particular item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a final call if you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific budget item, to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the door. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move to virtual testimony. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific budget item, I'll ask you to please raise your hand. I will call on you in the order that I see. Mr. Chair, I see no members of the public, either in person or virtual, who wish to comment on this specific matter today.
All right, thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion on the budget resolution?
Chair, I move that we approve the resolution for the adoption of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County fiscal year 2025 through 2026 budget in the amount of $127,212,221.
Second.
There's a lot of twos.
All right, Commissioner West has moved to approve the resolution for adoption of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County fiscal year 2025-26 budget in the amount of $127,212,221. Commissioner Helm has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Clerk, would you please call the poll for us?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now recess as the Housing Authority Board and convene as a Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board of Directors. Gary.
You are now meeting as the Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board of Directors of Clackamas County. This is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Clackamas County Service District Number 5 fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations. Appropriations amount is $3,442,545. Total budget amount is $5,134,878. Funding is through assessments within the district. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth and Sandra, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager. The Budget Committee reviewed the budget on May 27th of 2025, received public input, and the budget was approved as presented. We respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the district's 25-26 budget, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Colleagues, questions? All right, I will now open the public hearing on this item. Clerk, would you please moderate in-person and virtual testimony for us on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific budget item, this is your opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the door. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public who are physically present and wish to comment on this specific budget item, I'll now, with your assent, turn to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific budget item, I'll ask you to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. Mr. Les Poole, I'll unmute you, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully I'm coming through all right.
Yes, please proceed, Mr. Poole.
Thank you. Just a brief voice of approval and support and endorsement of this particular item in the budget. I think it's one of the best values that we get, and obviously we can't put a price on public safety. I've had personal experience with, having lights installed and going through the process in the past, and never have I heard a complaint. So I want to just weigh in and say that this is something that gets little attention, but it's a great value. Thank you.
If there's anyone else attending virtually, this is your final opportunity to please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, seeing no other members of the public who wish to speak virtually, we have one other member of the public physically present who wishes to speak. Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you. Go ahead.
Good
Thelma,
morning
go ahead.
again, Thelma Hagen-Miller. I just want to say that as far as the lighting district, I was involved in the lighting on McLaughlin Boulevard in the unincorporated area. Every time I drive home from the Elks Lodge to my house at 10 o'clock on a rainy December night, I thank you all for allowing us to put those lights up. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
This is a final call for any public testimony in this specific budget item, either in person or virtual. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtual, who wish to comment on this specific matter today.
All right, thank you. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion? Look at my colleagues. Not seeing any. Is there a motion on this budget resolution?
Chair, I move we approve the resolution for adoption of the Service District Number 5 fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations in the amount of $3,442,545 and a total budget amount of $5,134,878.
Second.
Director Helm has moved to approve the resolution for adoption of the Service District Number 5 fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriation in the amount of $3,442,545 and a total budget amount of $5,134,878. Director Schrader has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll for us?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now adjourn as the Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board of Directors and convene as a Development Agency Board. Gary? what is on?
Thank you. You're now meeting as the Development Agency Board of Directors of Clackamas County. This is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Clackamas County Development Agency fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Appropriations amount is $33,748,601. Total budget amount is $41,638,819. Funding is through beginning fund balance and tax increment property taxes. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth or Sandra, go ahead, please.
Chair and Commissioners, the Budget Committee reviewed this budget on May 27th, 2025, and received public input. The budget was approved as presented, and we respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the agency's fiscal year 25-26 budget, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, looking around for colleagues' questions. I don't see any. I will now open the public hearing on this item. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony again for us?
If you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific budget item, this is your final opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit it in the box by the door. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move to those virtually attending. If you are virtually attending this meeting and wish to comment on this specific budget item, please raise your hand. I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call for those virtually attending to raise their hand if they wish to comment on this specific budget item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtual, wish to comment on this specific item today.
Thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, is there a motion for a budget resolution?
I move we approve the resolution for adoption of the Development Agency fiscal year 25-2026 budget with appropriations in the amount of $33,748,601 and a total budget amount of $41,638,819.
Second.
Director Schrader has moved to approve the resolution for adoption of the Development Agency fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriation in the amount of $33,748,601 and a total budget amount of $41,638,819. Director Helm has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Sandy Clerk, would you please call the poll for us?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now adjourn as a Development Agency Board and convene as the Extension and 4-H Service District Board of Directors. Gary.
You are now meeting as the Extension and 4-H Service Board of Directors for Clackamas County. This is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations and imposing a property tax for tax year 2025-2026. Appropriations amount is $18,706,852 and tax rate is 0.0500 per $1,000 of assessed value. Total budget amount is $18,706,852. Funding is through beginning fund balance, property taxes, interest earnings, and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth or Sandra, go ahead, please.
The Budget Committee reviewed the budget on May 27th of 2025, received public input, and the budget was approved as presented. We respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the district's 25-26 budget, imposing the tax and categorizing that property tax. We're happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, I will now open the public hearing on this item. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony again for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific budget item, this is your opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the door. Mr. Chair, I see no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific budget item. So with your assent, I'll now move to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and would like to comment on this specific budget item, and I'll ask you to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final opportunity for those who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific item to please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public attending either in person or virtually wish to comment on this matter today.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion? Looking to my colleagues, seeing none. Is there a motion on this budget resolution?
Chair, I move we approve the resolution for adoption of the Extension and 4-H Service District fiscal year 25-26 budget with appropriations in the amount of $18,706,852, a total amount of $18,706,852, and a tax rate of 5 cents per thousand of assessed value.
Second.
Right. Okay, Director Savas has moved to approve the resolution for the adoption of the Extension and 4-H Service District fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriations in the amount of $18,706,852, a total budget amount of $18,706,852, and a tax rate of 0.05 per thousand of assessed value. Director Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, I'm going to switch hats again, everybody. I will now adjourn as the Extension and 4-H Service District Board of Directors and convene as the Library District Board of Directors. Gary, what is next?
Thank you. You are now meeting as the Library Service District of Clackamas County Board of Directors. This is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Clackamas County Library Service District fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations and imposing a property tax for tax year 2025-2026. Appropriations amount is $26,258,827, and the tax rate is 0.3974 per $1,000 of assessed value. Total budget amount is $26,258,827. Funding is through property taxes. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth or Sandra, go ahead, please.
Thank you. The Library Service District Budget Committee reviewed the budget on May 27th, 2025, and received public input, and the budget was approved as presented. We respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the district's fiscal year 25-26 budget, imposition of tax, and categorization of the property tax, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right. Looking around, any questions? Seeing none. I will now open the public hearing on this item. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific budget item, this is your opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box, which can be found by the center doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move to those attending virtually. If you are attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific budget item, please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call for those virtually attending to please raise their hand if they wish to comment on this specific item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public either physically present or virtually attending who wish to comment on this specific item.
And thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion?
Chair, just a comment.
Yes, sir.
This is one of the county service districts that is now facing, I would call compression of sorts in that the expenses are essentially outweighing the revenue, and library services are starting to diminish around the county in certain areas, and I want to, my appreciation to staff for setting up a discussion taking place with all the stakeholders, a task force to reevaluate and study how we can make adjustments as needed and potentially be asking the voters for an increase in the future. But this is one of several that is struggling to meet the voters' intent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Savas. All right, is there a motion on the budget resolution for this?
Chair, I move that we adopt the resolution for, I move that we approve the resolution for adoption of the Library Service District Fiscal Year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations in the amount of $26,258,827, a total budget amount of $26,258,827, and a tax rate of 0.3974 per 1,000 of assessed value.
Second. I'll second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Schrader. So Director West has moved to approve the resolution for an adoption of the Library Service District for the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriation in the amount of $26,258,827, a total budget amount of $26,258,827, and a tax rate of 0.3974 per thousand of assessed value. Director Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, Clerk, would you please call the poll for us?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now adjourn as the Library District Board of Directors and convene as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors. Gary?
Thank you. You are now meeting as the Enhanced Law Enforcement Board of Directors of Clackamas County. This is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Fiscal Year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations and imposing a property tax for tax year 2025-2026. Appropriations amount is $9,836,464, and the tax rate is 0.7198 per $1,000 of assessed value. Total budget amount is $9,836,464. Funding is through property taxes and interest earnings, including $676,015 in county general fund support. Elizabeth or Sandra, go ahead, please.
Okay, the Budget Committee reviewed the budget on May 27th of 2025, received public input, and the budget was approved with changes. We respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the district's 25-26 budget, imposing property tax and categorizing of that property tax, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, colleagues, questions? Okay, I will now open the public hearing on this item. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person or virtual testimony for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific budget hearing, please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the center doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific budget item, please raise your hand. This is a final call to please raise your hand for those who wish to comment on this specific item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtual, who wish to comment on this specific matter today.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion?
Chair, I'd like to make a comment similar to the comments I made regarding the library district, a little bit nuanced here. Just want to say that the Enhanced Law Enforcement District for many years has been struggling to with the monies available, actually meet the intent of what the ballot measure provided. I know we've discussed this at length for many years, and we're making some adjustments. It's now currently being backfilled to meet the voters' intent. However, I suggest maybe in the future, not today, but in the future, we consider putting something on the ballot measure, possibly to scale back what was promised and let voters know and/or give them the choice of enhancing the tax rate if they so choose. But I think it's going to be either or. We can't go to the taxpayers with asks for everything, so I think we have to be very cautious and considerate of household incomes and so forth. But I just want to make that comment.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right. Is there a motion on the budget resolution?
I move we approve the resolution for adoption of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Fiscal Year 25-26 budget with appropriations in the amount of $9,836,464, a total budget amount of $9,836,464, and a tax rate of 0.7198 per thousand of assessed value.
I'll second.
All right, so Director Savas has moved to approve the resolution for the adoption of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Fiscal Year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriations in the amount of $9,836,464, a total budget amount of $9,836,464, and a tax rate of 0.7198 per thousand of assessed value. Director Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
I will now adjourn as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors and convene as the Water Environmental Services Board of Directors. Gary?
You're halfway there, Commissioners, halfway there. All right, you're now meeting as the Water Environment Services Board of Directors of Clackamas County. You have 3 public hearings related to this entity. We'll do them one at a time. Item 1, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Water Environment Services Fiscal Year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations. Appropriations amount is $152,296,868. Total budget amount is $247,583,463. Funding is through beginning fund balance, system development charges, user rates and charges, federal grants, and interest earnings. No county general funds are involved. Sandra or Elizabeth, go ahead, please.
We respectfully request that the board, acting as the governing board of WES, approve the resolution adopting the fiscal year 25-26 budget. The Budget Committee has reviewed the budget, received public input, and approved the budget as presented, and today's hearing has been noticed.
All right, thank you. Colleagues, any questions on this matter? I will now open the first of 3 Water Environmental Services public hearings. This hearing is on item A, the budget. So clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony on this for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there are any members of the public present who wish to comment on this specific item, please fill out a blue card and put it in the box that can be found by the center doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move for those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific item, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call to please raise your hand if you wish to comment on this specific item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtual, who wish to comment on this specific item today.
Thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion on the budget resolution?
I move we approve the resolution for adoption of the Water Environment Services Fiscal Year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations in the amount of $152,296,868 and a total budget amount of $247,583,463.
Second.
Right. So Director Schrader has moved to approve the resolution for adoption of the Water Environmental Services Fiscal Year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriations in the amount of $152,296,868 and a total budget amount of $247,583,463. Director Helm has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Gary, what
All
is
right, you're
next?
still meeting as the Water Environment Services Board. Item B, still a public hearing, approval of a resolution for adoption of the Water Environment Services fiscal year 2025-2026 district fee schedule. No county general funds are involved. You did have a policy session about this earlier this year. Go ahead, Elizabeth and Sandra.
The second item is part of WES's long-term financial strategy and is supported by WES's advisory committee. It's the request of approval of the district fee schedule, and as Gary mentioned, has been heard previously, and we respectfully request approval of the fee schedule.
Right. Colleagues, questions? All right, I will now open the second of 3 Water Environmental Services public hearings. This hearing is on item B, the fee schedule. So clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony on this matter for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting in person, wish to comment on this specific matter, this is your opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move on to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific item, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call for those attending virtually to please raise their hand if they wish to comment on this specific item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtual, who wish to comment on this specific item today.
All right, I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, is there a motion on this fee schedule?
I
Mr.
move.
Chair.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the Water Environment Services fiscal year 2025-2026 district fee schedule.
Second.
All right, Director Helm has moved to approve the Water Environmental Services fiscal year 2025-2026 district fee schedule, and Director Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Gary. What's next?
You are still meeting as the Water Environment Services Board. This is item C, public hearing, approval of a board order for adoption of rates and charges for water environment services. Fiscal impact is approximately $1.3 million of additional sewer and surface water monthly service charge revenue. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, please, Sandra or Elizabeth.
The last item is a request for approval of WES's new monthly sewer and surface water rates for next fiscal year. The rates, in combination with the budget and the fee schedule updates, will ensure funding of necessary capital improvements and resources to continue providing wastewater and surface water services to the community in the most cost-effective manner. We respectfully request approval of the rate increases.
All right, thank you. Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I will now open the third of the 3 Water Environmental Services public hearings. This hearing is on item C, the rates and charges. So clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony on this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific item, please fill out a blue card and deposit it in the box that can be found by the center doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present wish to comment on this specific item, I'll now move with your assent to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific item, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand. This is a final call for those attending virtual to please raise their hand if they wish to comment on this specific item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public present or physically or virtual who wish to comment on this specific item.
Right, I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion from my colleagues?
Chair?
Yes.
I do have a comment. When this came before the board here recently, there were only 3 of us here, and I ended up reluctantly voting in support to move this forward to today. And it's not a reflection on staff, it's not a reflection on the committee. In fact, it's in support of the the advisory committee's recommendation, which we did not follow. Not a big deal, but again, this is just one more additive expense to some of the households that are struggling in the district. So I think that collective burden over the years has amounted to several dollars collectively, which is now part of their bill. So I know we look at it on an annual basis, it's only $1, and after several years, it's many dollars. So I will be respectfully voting no on this.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Savas. And Commissioner Hill.
I wasn't here for this process, stepping into this, but I will say that I know Water Environment Services does have a low-income assistance program, so I just want to make that point as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Right. And Commissioner West.
I'm going to begrudgingly support the fee increase here. Commissioner Hill makes a point that we do have opportunities for people that do have some financial challenges to get support, and we are proud that we can offer that. But I think overall, we look at what's happening in the state, we look at what's happening within a lot of public service, how much it costs just to live here, and sometimes we just wonder as citizens, what are we getting for it? Well, I know we do have a very fantastic, and you get good service from Wes, but I do want to be sensitive of our neighbors' pocketbooks right now, especially in these times, and they're somewhat uncertain. I do think that these are necessary, and the team at Wes were very thoughtful about how they came to the decision and the recommendations that they gave us, so I see you in the room, thank you. But I hate having to do it, so I'm going to begrudgingly support this, but I just wanted to voice my concern.
Thank you. Commissioner West. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, not to rebut anyone, I know we talked about this, and my experience on districts in past, that the low-income policy that we had in other districts and here too, is very undersubscribed. Very many people are aware of it, and those who are aware of it, sometimes because of the paperwork requirements and the proof of income levels is very difficult. It becomes undersubscribed, and therefore it doesn't have the full effect of the intent of a low-income fee reduction. So that's just a reality I just wanted to put out there. Thank you.
Right, thank you. All right, not seeing any other comments. Is there a motion on the rates and charges?
I move we approve the proposed Water Environment Services rates and charges.
Second?
All right, Director Schrader has moved to approve the proposed Water Environmental Services rates and charges. Director Helm has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director Savas.
No, I'm sorry, no.
Gotcha, off guard.
Cut me off guard.
I didn't know I was that persuasive. Just kidding.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I will now adjourn as the Water Environmental Services Board of Directors and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreational District Board of Directors. Gary.
Thank you, Chair. You are now meeting as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors. There are 2 public hearings. We'll do them one at a time. First, item A, approval of a resolution for adoption of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with appropriations and imposing a property tax for tax year 2025-2026. Appropriations amount is $33,169,477, and tax rate is 0.5382 per $1,000 of assessed value. Total budget amount is $40,960,062. Funding is through existing district funds, property taxes, fees and fines, and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Sandra or Elizabeth, go ahead, please.
Thank you. The Budget Committee for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District reviewed the budget on May 27, 2025, and received public input. And the budget was approved as presented. We respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the district's fiscal year 25-26 budget, imposing of tax and categorization of the property tax. We're happy to answer any questions.
And forgive me, I'm going to correct that. It was not approved as presented. There was an amendment that the Budget Committee made regarding adding bridge funding for 2 programs that was included
back.
in the proposed budget that's before you today. Sorry.
Thank you.
Right. Colleagues, questions? Is there anybody? All right, I will now open the first of 2 public hearings. This hearing is on item A, the budget. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've received 3 blue cards in advance who wish to speak on this specific item, but this is another reminder that if you wish to comment on this specific item, to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box that can be found by the center doors. First, I have Mr. Mark Elliott. Mark Elliott, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes.
If I'm allowed, I'd like to defer to Valerie Chapman first, if that's possible.
Next, Mr. Chair, with your approval, Valerie Chapman. Valerie Chapman, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Chair Roberts and Commissioners. A special hello to Commissioner Helm, who I have not yet had the opportunity to meet.
Thank you.
My name is Valerie Chapman. I am the chair of the Oak Grove Community Council, which is the CPO in our area. So I'm here as an advocate for the unincorporated urban area where I have lived for more than 40 years. I went to the budget hearing. I understand money is tough everywhere. I understand how hard it is to have to rely on beginning fund balances, although I did note that there were 2 districts whose budgets were approved that are relying on those. And in the past, the Park District has relied on those, but they were told they couldn't, so there's a 33% cut in the Park District. That's huge, okay? People are losing jobs. That's really sad. But today I really want to talk about a tale of 2 different community centers. So the Milwaukee Community Center is up and running. And because it's up and running, they could send a whole busload of people to speak to what they're going to lose. And I heard the budget that was presented with the cuts that Director Sully presented. And it would have cut transportation to the Milwaukee Center. It would also have cut 1 day out of the 5 that they have for drop-in center. But the community support, people that were there, that was allowed to have bridge funding to keep those going. Okay, well, in Oak Grove, our center is not up and running yet. It's set to open in October. And people have worked for years to have a place in our community where we can gather. So we couldn't send a busload of anybody because we're not open yet, right? So we didn't get any days because the cuts say that we will not open for drop-in services. So we get nothing. So we're going to name it, we're going to open it, but no drop-in services. So it's essentially closed except for events that are planned and paid for, which is very different because these are 2, this is an urban area in both Oak Grove and also Jennings Lodge it would be served. And so I see that as there's some inequity in that. And I would respectfully ask that there's some bridge money given, some startup money, to help that community center be open for drop-in services. And my understanding is the cost of running those drop-in services at the soon-to-be-named facility at the old Concord School is about the same as the bridge money for transportation and the extra day added for 5 days in Milwaukee to keep that open. So I think there's an equity issue that we, I do know that, you know, we understand you can't keep taking from the beginning funds balance. And there are people in our community that are ready to try to step up and do some fundraising. Again, we're not open yet, so we don't have the foundation, but we'll get there. So that's my encouragement. Please fund us.
Thank you. Mr. Elliott, returning to you. Mr. Mark Elliott, please come forward and introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for letting Valerie speak first. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mark Elliott, and I am here today as the Vice Chair of the Friends of the Oak Grove Community Council Board of Directors. We are a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization established in 2024, dedicated to supporting the work of the Oak Grove Community Council, also known as a community planning organization. The Board of Directors met on Friday, June 6th, to discuss how the Friends can support the soon-to-open community center at the Concord property in light of the proposed budget cuts to the NCPRD 2025-26 budget. We agreed that the proposal to open the center for scheduled events only will not adequately address the needs and aspirations of the Oak Grove community. We concluded that it is essential for our community to financially support limited drop-in services and recreational programming when the center opens this fall. We are asking the board to approve the proposed NCPRD budget for 2025-2026, which I understand includes additional funding that will cover costs for these limited drop-in services and recreational programming at the new community center. This additional funding will provide parity with funds allocated to bridge operations at the Milwaukee Community Center, as Valerie mentioned. To support this funding, the Oak Grove community, through the Friends of the Oak Grove Community Council, are prepared to initiate a 2-year fundraising campaign to help offset the use of beginning fund balances and bridge the resulting budget gap. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the Board of Directors for your timeless effort in making the new Oak Lodge Library, Park, and Community Center a reality. I also want to thank County Administrator Gary Schmidt for his actions to address the funding gap when this project hung in the balance a few years ago, enabling us to see this dream come to fruition. On behalf of the citizens of the Oak Grove community, I urge you to approve the additional funding as included in the 2025-2026 NCPRD budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a final call. If you're attending this meeting in person today and wish to comment on this specific matter, to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box that can be found by the center doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no other members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific agenda item, I'll now ask you to please raise your hand. I will call on you in the order that I see. Jeanette D. I'll unmute you. Please introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello and good morning. My name is Jeanette DeCastro. I'm a resident of unincorporated Clackamas in the Sunnyside Mount Scott CPO, and also serve on the District Advisory Committee for NCPRD. I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm really trying to focus today. And in a big picture sense, our county is huge, like as bigger than 4 states in the United States. 425,000 plus residents. 106,000 are in the NCPRD district. So this serves a lot of us here in Clackamas County. And we know that the needs are outpacing revenue. Commissioner Savas, Director Savas said that earlier today. We are in great need of reliable, stable revenue for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. I really see it as all hands on deck. Whatever sports metaphor you'd like to use, whether it be all deck, everybody on deck, everybody on the field, everybody engaged. My direct ask to each of you, Chair Roberts, Director Savas, Director Schrader, Director West, and Director Helm, please, we'd love you to really engage fully to get long-term revenue increased for our district. I'm deeply sad about this budget because it does mean the loss of jobs for staff. NCPRD runs pretty lean, with incredible efficiency and with incredible care for community. I'm really excited to hear about the opportunities and acknowledging there's been previous supports to our district from nonprofits. So yes, please, let's make every partnership we can to support our district. Culture and arts and parks, they go together like peas and carrots or chocolate and peanut butter, whichever you like better. So again, my plea to you from the place that you sit at the dais, please work hard for us to find this increased revenue so that we can continue to do great things for community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Les Poole. I'll unmute you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, I want to weigh in just a few thoughts on the subject. Even though I don't live in the district any longer, my family donated property at Kellogg Lake back when the district was formed. And like everyone in the room, it's near and dear to me. The reality is money's getting tighter out there. And when you look at the overall budget, 33+ million, it's hard to squeeze or ask for more in light of the times we're in. I agree with the sentiment from the previous speakers, but when I drive down the streets and for example, I roll down 82nd Drive and I see homeless folks, even though the county's doing what it can and certainly improve that. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I'm saying that I drive down 82nd Drive and there I see the ClackCo Elementary School that's been purchased and will be converted into a center for treatment. And why it's relevant is that whether we like it or not, or no matter how much I love the parks and wish there was more money for them and the services, we've got bigger problems. So I'm just concerned about how can the Parks District in the future fund itself. It's sad we have a few cuts, but it's necessary, I think. And how can there be stability given some of the things that have gone on in terms of funding and as Commissioner Savas has said, where money goes, what are we getting for our money in unincorporated? All those questions are out there, and very pleased that Concord is coming together. There's a big library project there. And if and when, I should say when, there's money for some of the other services and things that people are asking for, I certainly support them. But I'm giving you a strong message that asking for any more money is just not viable. Just not viable. I do support the budget, and by all means, we've got work to do, or we'll be back in the same place in a year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. This is a final opportunity if you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific item to please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either physically present or virtually attending, who wish to comment on this specific matter today.
Thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, Chair, I think our first two speakers, I think, may have misunderstood a little bit. So as Gary explained, what was presented on May 27th was an adjustment of about $60,000 to meet the needs of Milwaukee Community Center. And the people here today, I believe, assume that their ask is included in this budget, and it is not. And so Kia has been working with our community members, those in the room and others, to put together the bridge funding that they requested out of the NCPRD budget, not the general fund budget, but the NCPRD budget. So if the chair is okay, I'd like to make sure Kia can come up here and explain that amount. And she doesn't have to, but I have a motion prepared to actually change the budget, and it's been prepared by staff, so it's ready to go. But the ask is consistent with what the members earlier spoke to, bridge funding for the Concord Community Center property on the amount of $64,684.
Okay, just for clarification, is your intention that we would approve the first portion of this, and that would be an addition? Is that how I understand it?
Gary, the motion you had scripted for me, is that an additional motion?
So if you wanted to restore is the wrong word, if you wanted to add funding for the Concord Community Center, as you heard public comment today, and you heard prior, and you got emails about it, then the motion I gave you is what you would make, and then we would modify the overall motion for the budget approval, if you approve that first motion.
Okay, great. So with that said, I do want to just use one of the speaker's comments about the metaphor, the sports metaphor, and I'll just use marathon and obstacle course. It took a marathon to get us where we are, and we still have an obstacle course to go as far as making all the adjustments and calibrations in the future with some past agreements, with some other challenges, tax rate issues and others. And so I am deeply impressed and heartened to know and learn of the work of the Milwaukee Community Foundation and our foundation members here today for the Oak Grove Community Council, their willingness to help bridge that and work as partners to make this vision of the community and the community center a reality in a way that's meaningful to the community. I really think it'll build not only good faith with the voters and the residents of the district, but also making strides in making the awareness of what's possible more reality and more tangible. So, Chair, as Administrator Schmidt had defined, I will make a separate motion and then follow it up by a changed motion. So, Chair, I move that NCPRD allocate $64,684 in one-time funding to enable the community center at the Concord property to be open for drop-in access and additional recreation programming for fiscal year 25-26. And CPRD shall work with the community partners to identify external funding sources for ongoing operations beyond fiscal year 25-26.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So Commissioner Savas has moved that North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District allocate $64,684 in a one-time funding to enable the community center at the Concord property to be open for drop-in access and additional recreational programming for the fiscal year 2025-2026. So North Clackamas Parks and Rec District shall work with community partners to identify external funding sources for ongoing operation beyond fiscal year 2025-2026, seconded by Commissioner Helm. And is there further discussion? Commissioner Schrader.
Just a few questions. So is this money coming from the general fund directly, or is it within the NCPRD budget?
Gary has an answer for you.
So this is all within NCPRD, no
Okay.
county general fund. It will, look, I'm your staff member, so I have to tell you, this will draw down the carryover fund balance that we
Okay.
talked about. It does mean, if you approve, while it's one time only, there'll be deeper cuts next year. So this is not solving the overall funding issue. I certainly understand the community support and your support. We can do it, but it just means there'll be some impacts in future budget years, or you raise the tax rate.
Right.
Which you've been talking about.
And that's what I was going to lead into, because I think that if we have a commitment to raise the tax rate, because I do believe there was a vote a few years back and the area did not vote for that. Is that correct? Do you remember that, Paul?
Oh, I remember it very well, and it was probably too complicated and too complex. It should have been broken up into separate
Okay.
efforts.
So that issue will be taken care of. If there's a commitment from the area to, and of course, that would include Milwaukee is still part of NCPRD, so they'd have to get a commitment from the whole district to go ahead and move ahead and raise that tax rate, and people are willing to go there and to work on that. I think that will be, for me to vote yes, I want to make sure we have that commitment moving forward, because as Gary said, we're still going to be on a fiscal cliff, okay? So we can make sure that Concord gets what it needs, but if the fiscal cliff isn't pretty much taken care of, like you said, we're going to be facing the same thing. I would certainly be willing to help with that kind of an effort, as I would be able to help with the library issue, because I think parks and libraries are the two things we do best for our constituents. So with that commitment, I can get there as a yes, but it's going to be a heavy lift, folks, because as you know, traditionally this is a very tax-averse county, and people are going to have to see that this is adding significant value to their quality of life in order to move it forward. But I know you are wonderful people and all work hard, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you,
That's what I have
Commissioner
to say.
Schrader. I think we're at a point, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Right.
Thank you.
So I will now go back to the original motion.
So actually, we need a short recess so we can give you new language for the main motion, because you've now impacted the main motion. We're actually ready. We just need like 30 seconds. 30-second break, please.
Now, let's go ahead and, we've been going at it for a couple hours almost, so how about we take a 10-minute break?
Okay?
Is that all right?
Adjourn break.
Yeah. All right.
And a recess.
We'll be adjourned.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we'll reconvene as the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District Board of Directors. And Gary, I'm going to turn to you.
Yes, so you made a motion that staff has now adjusted the main motion of this budget to reflect the first motion you just made regarding the funding for the Concord property. So when you're ready, the handout that Andrew gave you shows the correct language for the new motion to adopt the entire NCPRD budget when you're ready.
Right. So I believe we're at that point. Is there a motion?
Yep. Chair, I move we approve the resolution for adoption of North Clackamas Parks Recreation District fiscal year 25-26 budget with appropriations in the amount of $33,259,161, a total budget amount of $40,985,062, and a tax rate of tax rate of 0.5382 per thousand of assessed value.
Second.
All right. All right. Director Savas has made a motion to approve the resolution for the adoption of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreational District fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriation in the amount of $33,259,161, a total budget amount of $40,985,062 at a tax rate of 0.5382 per thousand of assessed value. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you. And Gary, what's up next?
Thank you. You're still meeting as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board. This is the second public hearing. Item B, approval of a resolution for adoption of new fees and fee increases for fiscal year 2025-2026. No county general funds are involved. You also had a policy session on this earlier this year. Go ahead, please, Elizabeth or Sandra.
Thank you. Commissioners and Chair, we respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting the district's fiscal year 25-26 fees as proposed, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. First turn to the colleagues. Not seeing any questions at this point. So I will now open the second of two public hearings. This hearing is on item B, the proposed fees. So clerk, would you help us out, moderate the in-person and virtual testimony?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific matter, this is your opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit it in the box by the center doors. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present wish to comment on this item, I will now move to those attending virtual with your permission. If you're attending this meeting virtually and would like to comment on this specific matter, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand. This is a final call if you wish to comment on this matter specifically to please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public either physically present or online who wish to comment on this specific matter today.
Thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public hearing on this item. And is there a motion on these fees?
Chair, a comment first, and that is that I think we heard on May 27th, people are asking us, what else could we do? What else could we do to help the finances of the district? And approving these fees was a step in that direction, and everything we could possibly do responsibly. So just want to acknowledge and thank the board for recognizing that and taking all the steps here today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner West.
I agree. You know, we can only look for so many efficiencies. We can only look under so many couch cushions. And we're really trying, this issue is not unique to Clackamas County and to the special district. You know, we are going to have to figure out a better way and a better campaign to communicate to the special district to increase the millage rate. And we got to do that sooner than later. And we have to get the district on its right-footed again. And these increased costs and inflation, and I mean, it hits these districts like this, you know, head on. And wait, Commissioner, how old is the rate that is it 30 years old? Is it?
It was implemented in 1990, so that'd be 35 years.
So I was not even in high school when we did this millage rate. Imagine how much has just changed economically, the region, the demographics, even how we access libraries, the technology, how we perceive. I mean, all these things are so different. So we absolutely have to figure out how to, move forward, and it's going back to the voters and saying it's time to update this. So I will be supporting that. I know we're going to do a lot of hard work around it. So, I mean, the fees are, like you said, a little bit. It's not enough. But we are all have a little heartburn over this with you in the community. We feel it right there with you, and we want to preserve these services. They're tough decisions. So we'll figure it out. We'll get there. We've faced things before. I mean, I'm sure, Thelma, you can even tell us, hey, we've overcome bigger hurdles than this. So we appreciate your guys' advocacy and support in this. We'll get there.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Is there a motion on these fees?
I move we approve the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District fiscal year 2025-2026 new fees and fee increases as proposed.
Second.
Director Helm has moved to approve the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District fiscal year 2025-2026 new fees and fee increases as proposed. Director Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary.
Thank you. You are now meeting as the Board of County Commissioners. You have two public hearings. This is the county budget, the overall county budget. It includes every department and office led by an elected official, the entirety of the county budget. Public hearings, item A. Approval of a resolution for adoption of the fiscal year 2025-2026 Clackamas County budget with appropriations. Appropriations amount is $1,355,022,745. Total budget amount is $1,506,510,895. Funding is through beginning fund balance, federal, state, and local taxes, all other gifts and donations, charges, fees, licenses, permits, fines, assessments, revenue from bonds and other debts, other revenue sources, interfund transfers, and $179,903,905 in county general funds. Phew. Sandra, will you please go ahead?
Okay. The Budget Committee reviewed the budget on May 27th through the 29th. Public input was received, and the budget was approved with adjustments and a mathematical correction of $304,641. That mathematical correction is shown on your page 2 of the staff report, and it is a requirement of budget law that we communicate that in writing and verbally. And we respectfully request approval of the resolution adopting Clackamas County's fiscal year 25-26 budget, imposing the property tax, and categorizing of the property tax. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Can you explain the correction? What was that, Sandra?
Sure. So when we made the addition of the $152,000 for the disaster management medical examiner, we subtracted it in unappropriated instead of adding it. And so if you double that in order for us to correct it, we had to double that, and that is the 304,641 that you're seeing here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Gary, before I move on?
No.
Okay, colleagues, any questions? All right, I'm sorry.
I was going to reserve my comments and questions for after I hear the public.
All right, thank you, Paul. I will now open the first of 2 public hearings. This hearing is on item A, the budget. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and
So
virtual?
actually, he's going to give out a handout. This was the only written communication you've received about the general county budget. And so he's distributing that real quick for you to read. Sorry, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
Mr. Chair, I've received 1 blue card in advance registration for those who wish to speak in person this item today, but this is a reminder that if you wish to speak on this specific budget item, to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the center doors. First, I have Jamie Pride. Jamie Pride, please come forward and introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes. It appears that Jamie Pride is not present. I have no other blue cards. This is a final call if you are attending this meeting in person and wish to comment on this specific item, to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the center doors. Seeing no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, Chair, I'll now move to those attending virtually. If you are attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment on this specific budget item, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call for those attending virtually to please raise your hand, and I will call on those that I see. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either present in person or virtually, who wish to comment on this specific matter today.
All right, thank you. I will now close the public hearing on this item and any further discussion from my colleagues. Commissioner Savas.
I don't know where to begin here, but first of all, I just want to say this, if I have a little bit of, if my tone is a little frustration or passion, is because, number one, after yesterday's discussion with staff, and no, I'm not being critical of anyone here in the room or staff, but I didn't get very much sleep last night, just thinking about part of the discussion yesterday and just reliving the trauma of May 27, 28, and 29 of this year. I tell people I have PTSD after that week. But kidding aside, Gary, you and I spoke earlier this morning about this. I'm kind of roiling over the discussion yesterday, and I'm on colleagues on page 4, or not the second page, which is numbered page 4 at the bottom. after the meeting yesterday, Commissioner Schrader wanted to ask me a question, and she rightfully said, Paul, you're going so fast, I couldn't follow you. So I think maybe for the public, maybe who was watching, I want to make sure people understand what I was trying to say yesterday. So on this column here, it says page 4 at the bottom. It's an excerpt out of section 9 of the budget book. But what I was trying to point out was the operating, in the shaded bar there, where it says operating revenue, 25,210,000. If you see that, commissioners, that number is the revenue. And if you go down a few lines and you see the 29,474,039, that is the expenditure. So essentially, what this budget, and as I recall, this was the budget presented by the sheriff, not by our staff, that shows that there is a $4 million plus running deficit, meaning the expenditures are outpacing revenues. And this is the levy. This is the levy, so people don't know. So when I was talking about comparison, and we were comparing fiscal over to the left, the first column says fiscal year 22-23. If you look at those same numbers, you'll see it's the opposite. It's the inverse, right? Where it should be. Basically, revenues are higher than the operating funds. So in fiscal year 22-23, that number was 26 million for total revenue, or pardon me, for 22 million. And then the expenditure was 18 million. So it was a $4 million, I'll say, surplus. But those are the actuals. And then the next year, similar, 22 million, almost 23 million. And the expenditures were, at that point, at least here, listed at 23 million. So my question for staff here, thinking about this even further, knowing that recognizing the carryover in fiscal year 23-24, and knowing that last year we had 16 vacant positions, am I to presume that again, looking at fiscal year 23-24 actuals, am I to presume that because those numbers are very close to one another, or slightly above, that the cost of operating the levy is not possible with the available money?
I'm Commissioner Cindy Becker with County Administration. I think we go back to the conversation about kind of what's real, because that shaded line does reflect what they are projecting they will need. And if county finance was doing this budget, we would not have the same numbers. And so there would be, the expenses would be in line with the projections.
Yeah, I understand. And I'm really working hard to be neutral today. So I am not taking any sides here. So I want to go back to fiscal year, the column, the second column says fiscal year 23-24. So again, the revenue line, not including the beginning fund balance, just putting that aside for a moment. But if we just look at that revenue line, the tax revenue line, 22,979,000, correct? That's $1 million, well, not $1 million, it's about $500,000 less than the operating expenditure. And we know that there were vacancies in that year. So am I to presume from a business model standpoint that there's inadequate levy funds to fund the full 16 positions and more? Because is that the true actual? And also follow-up question, is that the true actual?
Those are the actuals. Again, I think, and this is where we get into this kind of nuanced area, I guess. The beginning fund balance is in fact part of their budget. I know it's not part of their operating, but it's when they're not spending the money that they have, obviously that's going into beginning fund balance. When they have these vacant positions, again, they're funded for those positions, but they're not expensing against those. So it's hard for us to say that they don't have enough money, because they do have enough money. They're not spending it, and so they're continuing to carry it forward. And so I think what happens with the beginning fund balance, it skews the whole picture. They do have enough money in their budget. They're not spending it. And so it makes it look like, again, when you make these projections, that they don't have enough money. The money's in the bank, they've got it. And so I don't know how else to explain it. Sandra, I don't know how else to explain it. We don't agree with the projections. And we actually went out, because I know that the sheriff's office has said the next year they will be fine. They're concerned about the following year, that they'll be underwater. And that was also talked about in the memo that was sent in February. We ran the projections against, again, reality, what we see as reality, what history has shown. We don't see that problem. So it's a question of, what you're prioritizing and how you're spending the money. They have the money, they're not spending it. So it's put into the savings account, if you will, the beginning fund balance. But they're not underfunded.
Okay. Well, this is where I'm struggling, and I'm gonna actually lean over to my colleague to my right, Commissioner Helm, who's a business owner as well. And I would say, Commissioner Helm, if you had a business operation and you had $22,979,000 in fiscal year 23-24, and you had an expenditure, again, actuals, of $23 million, about $500,000 above that. Does that look healthy to you?
No, I'd go out of business.
That's right. So, in all fairness, again, I'm totally being neutral here. I'm not taking any sides. So, granted, I do see the fact that there's $7 million in that year. There was actual $7,800,000 of carryover. And if that is tapped into and drawn down, right, you can certainly, that's how they got to be whole that year, right? So, my point is, during that time, there were 16 vacancies. So, from a business model standpoint, carrying that over, we had 24, 25. We still have 16 vacancies as of May 29th when we sat here. We got the last number, so we still have 16 vacancies. And I don't have the actuals for 24, 25, right? Because that book is closed at the end of this month, correct? So can you tell me today, is it easy for you to pull up what the actuals are right now for today in the levy fund?
Yeah, we get this from OpenGov.
So excluding the beginning fund balance, which you asked us to take out, to date, there's $897,471 to the good. So that's positive. So revenue minus expenses is a positive net number.
And that's through when? May 15th?
May isn't closed yet, so it's normally 45 days after the end of the month. So we would expect May to be closed in the next few weeks. So there could still be transactions that are occurring and journal entries that are shifting things. So that's part of the difficulty of projecting.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to drive here today, again, being 100% neutral, not taking sides, I'm just trying to look at it from a business model standpoint. Is the revenue that the levy is collecting adequate if all those positions promised in the levy were funded, right, fully employed? Can the levy succeed? And I know that there's carryover. So I know the carryover brings us to that because the levy terminates the end of next year, right? End of the calendar year, I guess. So I know there's enough money to get there. I'm just saying going forward, if you were to do a 5-year forecast going forward, would we recommend to the sheriff that we increase the levy fund or the levy fund is adequate? But the same token is I also recognize with a little bit, I won't say bias, but a little bit of concern on behalf of the citizens that we never fully funded all those positions. So these might be actuals. We certainly don't have the actual fulfillment of the measure itself, what was promised.
I think I would 100% agree with your statement. I believe that the fact that there are so many vacant positions in the sheriff's department has saved the general fund, the levy, the ELED, whatever program it's in, and actually kept us in the black. If all of those positions were funded, they would need supplementals. That is, I think that's an absolute true statement.
Okay. And I will, Chair, I will yield back here in a moment, but I want to say what really roils me and why I lost so much sleep last night was the fact that what's presented in the shaded area, going back to that, shows an expenditure line that far exceeds any of the actuals. Significant. And I am really wondering, is it fair, or is it full disclosure? Is it a misrepresentation to the public? Because this is a public document, right? And I know these numbers are not, again, the shaded area were not proposed by our staff, but were proposed by the Sheriff Department. I don't have, and I'd asked for it on the 29th and the 28th. And I'm asking, and so today I sit here, and that's why I voted against the motion to only, fulfill those funds with $1 million of the levy fund. But the fact of the matter is that the expenditures, I don't see how the expenditures increased by $9 million, and let alone in that last 2 weeks of this year, because your actuals don't say that. Your actuals say something different. Okay, and so I just take that 9 million and I add it to the 7 million of carryover. That's a lot of money. And I think, I don't feel good about this. This is the first time in my history of 27 years of doing public budgets in which the presented budget is not a picture of reality, and that I don't have a base budget that is responsible and really reflects accurate numbers. And that's what pains me here today. Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Well, I want to walk back what I said earlier, is that I wouldn't go out of business. But if you're spending more than you're making, you got to go out for a loan, or you got to dip into your savings. And and the numbers tell all, right? Because when you have a business, you live by your P&L every month, or sometimes every day. You look at your P&L to see where you're at. And what's disturbing about this is they were doing fine back in 22, 23, living within their means, and then it kind of went off the rail. So the 2025-26 budget is so far off the rail. That's my big concern. It's if you're close and you need a lift from your savings account, which is us, that's general fund, right? So that's my concern, that this is so far from reality that I don't understand it at all, so.
Commissioner West.
Oops, sorry. We did, we were presented a suggested budget. The budget committee said, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to sharpen our pencils and deliberate for 12 hours. And really try to dig into some of the chronic issues that we're seeing within this process. I mean, if the sheriff office came to me and said, hey, we need to extend the levy, and I said, well, cool, reduce it by 16 positions since we didn't need to pay for those anyways. Right? Like, if I'm paying for this as a taxpayer and I'm paying for this many positions and they're not being utilized, why would I continue to pay for those if you're not going to fill them? Because my goal as a taxpayer is to have those officers on my streets making my community safe. And that's the promise you made to me. And I see you squirreling a bunch of money away, but I don't actually see that officer in our jails or in our communities providing essential law enforcement. That was desperately needed. That Sheriff Roberts was correct in trying to get, when he was sheriff for this community, that there were huge gaps in our law enforcement needs, and we had to invest in this. But I invested in 16 badges that aren't able to do the work because we're not filling the positions. So I would say, hey, as a taxpayer, you clearly don't need them because you're not trying to fill them, so please reduce the amount of my levy, is what you're actually sending the message to the taxpayer. Now, I believe we do need those 16 positions, clearly. I do believe we need that. But I can't, it's weird to I can't work off phantom numbers. I can't see giant discrepancies in leaps and proposed needs that don't make sense. I can't have an entire finance department that's scratching their head year after year, like, how do we work here? Now, I don't know how this all plays into this because we did a lot of work around trying to right the ship on this about I made a motion around potentially over the next 6 months, really look into this about how to streamline the processes between the two finance departments. That passed the budget committee. We did a lot of conversation around how to address this. I guess my question is, after expressing these same frustrations, we made a motion to move forward as a budget committee. We have to pass something today. We don't, it's getting to that point. Does the motion that we're about to vote on reflect the will of the budget committee that we worked 12 hours to get to? If it does today, then we'll continue to work out, because there was a lot of motions that day to try to address this issue. I don't know if there's something that we need to do, Commissioner Savas, that we haven't already done in our budget committee meeting. I don't disagree with anything you said or your concerns, like I clearly, and Commissioner Helm, you also. So I guess my question is, we did do a lot of work in deliberation, so what is vastly different from that marathon deliberation and not rubber stamping the administrator's budget? Which, by the way, to be honest, if a lot of you have seen this done before, often the staff makes a recommended budget. We do our fun little, we go through the motions and we rubber stamp it. That is not what's happened the last 2 years. It has been, there was 2 years ago how we really worked overtime and deliberated. And then this year was even more. It was like we even went further to try to get this right. So I don't know, Commissioner, what is your, you have heartburn, but then do we have something we need to do differently than what we already deliberated on?
Well, what I didn't share yesterday, and I'm going to ask the administrator, but what I did learn last week was apparently I heard of that there was perhaps a request or paperwork processed in which maybe layoffs were requested by the sheriff. And then we all got this letter at the same time about someone's job offer being rescinded. I don't know if that was a position in the levy or if that was a position in the sheriff's office or the ELED. I don't know which. Where it was. But I'm just concerned that with all the revenue that's actually there, and the fact that we never fulfill the levy, why would we be rescinding or not hiring the people and not meeting the voters' intent? I think those are so conflicted, and I expressed that frustration on the 29th, 28th. This does not make any sense. I don't think this is fair or honest to the public, and I almost wonder if it's not even, frankly, infringes on budget law or it's in compliance with budget law. I've got some deep concerns. We can't misrepresent these numbers to the public. I didn't know that was allowed.
The sheriff's independently elected, so we also can't necessarily dictate this either, right?
Right.
I mean, we can appropriate fundings, which he's overspent appropriated budgets, which also is a problem, but we can't dictate that this is done correctly, but the voters are going to figure this out, like I just said, and be like, sure, we'll pass a levy, but we're going to minus it by 16 positions.
Yeah, if I might just interject something. Just want to talk about my position. I am now doing my very best to represent the entire board. My goal all the time, this Jeanette spoke earlier, I couldn't agree with her more. It's about building a team, right? It's about bringing everybody together, having hard discussions, conflict, trying to find resolution or common ground. And that's really what my whole hope is about. And part of the issue, I think, and I'll just tell you from my experience, just some things to talk about is, number one, when you first pass a levy, particularly if you add positions, right? You won't see those positions for 12 to 18 months. And then, because that's how long it takes to really get them hired and trained and add on, and then they go out on their own and they're accumulating overtime and a lot of other things that go with it. But it takes about 12 months at a conservative. That's why the contract cities actually now pay for that whole training process to get them up. So you are a little bit behind the curve from the beginning of the passage, but towards the end. And to correct me if I'm wrong, I heard Ms. Montoya kind of say a couple things that, correct me if I'm wrong, for the levy, there's about $897,000 left, right? that isn't very much money to make it to July. Is that right?
That number is excluding beginning fund balance, which
Okay.
the beginning fund balance is just about 8 million.
Okay.
So.
Outside of the.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And and I also heard you kind of say this, that if the positions were all filled, they would need supplemental budgets. Is that correct?
I believe so. On the 27th, 28th, or 29th, when CCSO provided the full-in cost of a sworn officer, I believe that's the first time we've seen a number that was, I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000 per officer. I believe that the last time that finance had gotten a number, it was closer to like 189. 190,000 was right about what I remember. It was vastly different. I actually believe that the number that we got this year was more in line. And I have to credit that to, we have better financial information today. And I think Commissioner Savas alluded to that or Commissioner West, is that the numbers that we've been able to provide lately are just much better. And he's right. We're able to identify issues much earlier than we were several years ago.
And that's where I do believe Gary and I, we're all working in the same direction to get better data, to get it to us, to kind of make sure we're making the best informed decisions. And I think that knowing that there isn't money for all those positions, then you kind of juggle as to when you kind of bring people on to make sure you have. And I keep coming back to, as sheriff, I'd much rather have somebody give me the budget of this number. This is what you got to live with in the year, and I know what it is, and I balance it as I go along, and that kind of helps me have a real clear picture rather than, okay, come back and we'll talk about it or whatever. And that's where I think it's, and I really believe this. Everybody has kind of had the best intentions in mind, but there has been some miscommunication, and I hope as we move forward we can kind of work towards resolving that. But I know Commissioner Helm had a comment.
When was the levy passed?
The first one was when we were in the show.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
coming up.
The 12 to 18 months is long gone, right? So there's been plenty of time to fill the positions. And I did hear the sheriff say during the budget process that she's been hiring a lot of seasoned staff from other areas at much higher prices than a trainee, right? That should have been accounted for as part of her budget, and also added to this shortfall that she's encountered. So all of these things, like, yes, you have a number to work with, you work within your means, and you shave where necessary. It to me, again, it just comes down to pure numbers, and maybe that's what we need to work towards, is we'll give finance department, we will give the sheriff's department, here's a number you can work with, and you have to live within your means. So I heard several things, though, during the budget process that were a little red flags about, all the extra money that was spent and then how much per officer costs, all those things, and yet positions were not filled and all these other things that we're encountering now. So I do want to get there. I want to get there where we have a very well-oiled machine with the sheriff's department and this board, so that we owe it to the taxpayers.
Right.
So, and when every other department met their budget goals, and the sheriff's department did not, it's highlights that it needs help.
I think it's Commissioner Schrader, I think.
So I just want to mention, Chair, you and I have been around for a while. I was here when you were elected, and the sheriff's budget consistently, all the time, is always the most difficult budget we deal with. And I can say that going back to 2003. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way the way it's been. And I, too, would like to move forward in a way where we get the consistent numbers and we understand, where it's been going and how these dollars have been operated, how they've been using to operationalize the department. But this piece of it, for whatever, this notion, when I look at this, and we have the revenue of 25 and the operating expenditure of 29, that's a high level of concern for me, because that's close to a $4 million, a little over $4 million difference. And so I don't know, I've always thought that this was a structural problem with how we look at the budget more than anything else, because I do know that consistently as we did this budget, one of the narratives was, well, it's hard to hire, it's a time frame. I mean, you've been consistent with that through the years, that, well, it takes this much training, and and then there's a gap, so we're trying to hire, but you still always have that extra money kind of lying there, and I think that's or it's there, it's not being used yet, and it may be because of the hiring process, but it's still there. And yet, when you look at this, there's still a $4 million over expenditure. That's what's worrisome, I think. And I would like to see this streamlined and continue to get on the same page with how we structurally do the financials, because I think that's part of the disconnect and the problem. And it is confusing to the public. And we all know the public basically totally supports public safety. I mean, it's it. And when I look at it, we've consistently, through the multiple years I've been here, you've always been our top. This year is 71% of the budget. So we really do want to fund public safety. But if we don't get to the kernel of why these numbers aren't, jiving, like you said, it's a business practice too. So, colleagues, I just want to ask a question though. Where are we going from here? Are we considering just passing this budget and continuing to work on this? Or are we trying to make adaptations and changes?
Gary has a comment there.
I have an opinion. So this before you today is everything you discussed and authorized at the Budget Committee. Nothing has changed.
Okay.
You made multiple motions that you've got to give me time to work on, which reflects all the concerns you've addressed today. All I ask is please let me and my staff work on everything you asked us to do. I can't turn it around overnight. This motion today is everything you've asked for. All 10 of you voted for, the public members and all 5 of you. So I respectfully ask, if you're willing, let's move forward today. Let me work on all the adjustments you've asked me to make. And if that doesn't work, then that's the time to say this is not happening.
So that's what I'm trying to ask today. I mean, we've identified the problems. They're obviously pretty visible. We've been working on it. We're going to have to continue to work on it, but we did do a budget process already that we said, okay, we're going to go ahead with this. And so it seems to me at this point in time, we've kind of, we're going to cross the Rubicon here and just say, okay, but what we're pulling up today is the consistent issues that we're still seeing that are giving us major red flags, which I still think are more than likely largely structural, whether it's with the hiring process or whether it's how they're, financially managing the budget with actuals. Those seem to me the structural issues that seem to be in error. And Cindy, did you want to say something?
Well, just to Gary's point, one of the motions that you passed was that we would start, the Finance Department would really get engaged in the finances of the sheriff, and we would be doing a monthly monitoring. So that, I think, is going to get you that detail, and we're going to come to you in July with a policy session to talk about those motions, but I think that's the vehicle to get you the information that you're asking for.
Okay, and then I would say as a legislative body, when we discuss these things, it's all on the record. I mean, it's the intent of what we plan to do is here. So that's the question I'm asking you, colleagues. do we move forward right now? It's not perfect. It didn't keep me awake at night because I was up till 2 a.m. anyway.
Doing raviolis.
I was making homemade lasagna last night, just to add that, and then with leftover tomato sauce, which is why I'm not a morning person. And you needed to know I had to add that levity because, so I was awake too, but for totally different reasons. So, but in a way, I'm glad you were awake because I trust your financial. If I need any financial kind of like mentoring, I always go to you, Commissioner Savas, because that's what you do best. And and the light goes off for me because these don't speak to me in quite the same, language. I'm more of an English major type, Anyway, so I guess that's the question before us. We've already set these pieces in motion of monitoring and trying to get to the bottom of these kinds of discrepancies. If we now get it on this record, that will only push it forward even further and make it more clear that this is the direction we want to move in with the sheriff's office. Okay, so that's just, I don't have much else to say, but whenever you want to come over for a lasagna, it'll be ready for you. Okay.
Thank you. I think Commissioner West was next in line.
Thank you, Chair. I agree it would be nice if we could give, like other departments, here's your budget, and then you work within it, like you did,
I know, right.
Chair Roberts, when you were sheriff. However, we did give money, and we did say, here's your budget, work with us if you have an issue, but instead overspent that appropriation, and if we didn't do a bailout, there would be a severe ethical budget violation. We tried that, and that was done this last cycle, and we said, here's your budget, and the current sheriff did not use the same practices you did when you were sheriff. That's clear to me, or chair, you're one and the same, former sheriff, Chair Roberts, yeah. So this is just the beginning of a lot of the work we already set in motion. We're a little bit rehashing what we all had a ton of angst about. I will be supporting this. One of the more consequential motions that I made during the budget committee, it's going to take 6 months to work its way out to see where we get. That's in process. Gary, you have 5 more months, and I know you're doing it. Gary's correct. There's all these other things that try to shore this up and to bring confidence back to the situation and repair it that we stepped out and did as a budget committee. So respecting that 12-hour process and that time that none of us will ever get back again. I actually had people call me, they watched all 12 hours. They did the double speed on like YouTube, but they watched. That's still 6 hours. They watched. I was like, you guys, wow, that's
You need to get a life.
Right? I was like, wow. I was like,
Get a life material.
yeah. I appreciate their engagement in the process. I think Gary, you said it was the longest budget deliberation in the history of the county.
At least the last 18 years, yes.
In the last 18 years, yeah, significantly. So I'm going to support this moving forward. I'm ready to make a motion if we're ready to hear it. I don't know if there's more comments, but I'm confident that we're continuing to make progress as we really do the heavy lifting here with the budget issues we've had over the last few cycles.
And let me add, this has been systemic for a very long time, but it is time to fix because we have a budget committee that is extremely competent. It's not just the commissioners. We do have folks on the committee who are also seeing red flags in how this is being managed, and that's what we need to tell the public. This is not just us as commissioners kind of getting worried, but trying to fix this systemic problem that has gone on for a while needs to happen because we can't continue to operate like this.
Okay.
So
Just
anyway.
a couple other comments, I think, Commissioner West, before making a motion. So I want to go to you and then Savas. You go ahead.
I just had, so if we approve this operating levy that puts us underwater, can that be adjusted then after we approve this, given all the rehashing we just did during the budget committee? Or can we pass this with an amendment that these numbers need to be in line with the budget?
Need finance staff to help that.
with the caveat that I would pass this budget if I knew that the operating revenue equaled the expenditure.
You're talking about the levy?
Yes.
For the levy.
Yes.
It's not part of it.
Because as it stands right now, it's $4 million underwater. And I
Right,
would be
so-
approving us to go in the hole again and doing another bailout,
So
right?
Andrew, I'm sorry, can I have you put that summary back up, just so we're all talking about the same thing? What is budgeted is ideally, in the ideal world, is more than is truly going to be spent. So that's normally what we see. So I'll start there, and then I will say that in the history, what we have seen is that the numbers, the revenue is conservative and the expenses are aggressive, and that what we end up seeing at year end is something much better. And that has been the history of the levy. So while the budget is concerning, and I can appreciate that it's concerning to you from our perspective and looking at the actuals, we would anticipate that this would end up neutral.
Okay.
Just based on the history. And please, the caveat that I'll give you is that we see a lot of journal entries made that are, moving money or moving positions. And so there's always the possibility that there will be those changes. But we're trying to monitor those, and hopefully with that monthly monitoring, we'll be able to bring those to light to you as they occur.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Salvis?
Yeah. So to Commissioner West a little bit, and Commissioner Schrader's question is that you're right, we are kind of rehashing, right? And yesterday, my upset was the fact that we were only using 1 million of the levy fund, and there's a surplus here. But what really threw me in the back of my mind, I didn't have time, but this public comment from Mr. Pride, talking about rescinding the offers and not hiring the people, to me, the issue isn't, there's enough money there. I'm convinced that there's enough money. We talked about this last time, right? If you take the 16 vacancies, you multiply it times a couple 100,000, you end up with about $3 to $3.5 million, right? You got $7.5 million of carryover, easily fund it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fulfill the promises, and yet we're laying off people and there's a request for layoffs?
It's wild.
And we never filled the levy. That's my heartburn. So
Yeah.
my no vote today will be because of that. It's not that it's not that I don't want to fund. We are funding, right? It's there. The money's there. But why would the Sheriff's Department propose layoffs?
Commissioner, that's the sheriff's job. Our job is to pass a sustainable, good budget, which I think we've done the work to get there. You were part of the process. You did the work to get us there. I mean, this is, Ms. Pine's email is quite compelling. She actually left a job, changed her life, full upheaval, ready to start, and was rescinded the job when we have the money to actually fulfill the position. And it feels like politics and Miss is it Pride, is stuck in the middle of it. It's exasperating. I mean, but at the same time, like, we're sitting here, hire her, and we got the money, and then for whatever reason, it's not happening within that independent department.
It just doesn't seem honest to appropriate the monies and then not have the monies being spent, right? When the monies are there. And again, I was here on the board when we put it on the ballot, the levy. So I feel I got a responsibility to that. I have a responsibility to fulfill that promise. And the monies are there to do it, and it's not being fulfilled. That's my heartburn.
And Paul, that brings us, I'm sorry, may I just take one more comment,
Yeah,
sir?
sure,
Okay,
say
thank you. Because what you're talking about here is there's the 7 million, beginning balance, right? And then 3 million vacant. So there's already a $9 million beginning balance. That was one of the things we talked about. And so that's why that concerns you. And yet, then you still see the revenue being 2.4 and the 2.9, it's still, But I guess my kernel of my question is, do we hold this up now at the 11th hour? We've got to get a budget done. And do we just stay on this now that we are fully aware that we're going to continue to have issues, and how do we fix that?
I'm ready for a motion.
Yeah, if I could just interject 1 second, and then if
ahead.
you wouldn't mind
That's
just for a second. And then a couple things, and I kind of said it the other day, so I don't want to rehash the same things over, but again, that $9.5 million in indirect cost, and the other issue that was a big financial impact was the $18.5 million contract with the union, which is about a 5% increase. And then just to kind of bring folks up to speed, Gary and I were working with the sheriff's office to do all we could to save money to get to the end of this year. And my understanding is there hasn't been any layoffs, but they were holding positions so that we could come in a better position financially. I mean, Gary, could you just talk about that for a moment?
There have been no layoffs in the sheriff's office of any full-time employees. The email you received, while very unfortunate, was not a filled position. A job was offered, but it was rescinded. That does happen here at the county. Not frequently, but it happens. There were several temporary employees who were notified their jobs would not continue after July 1st. That is typical of every department. A temp employee is 1 year at a time. So that has occurred in the sheriff's office, but no full-time employees have been laid off. It's a plan that must be submitted in writing, and I actually approve it as the administrator. Right. So the sheriff has signaled she might do a plan, but has not finalized that plan yet.
So there was a request, right?
The sheriff sent me an email that you all know about saying she was going to prepare a layoff plan, and I said, write a memo, and I'll review it when you're ready. But she has not done that yet. She's still considering that.
Yeah. And I'm hearing from upset deputies that somehow have the feeling as though we didn't appropriate enough money to do their job when there is enough money. That is the issue.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, back to you. I'm sorry to interject you, Commissioner Helm.
I'm done.
Did you want to make a motion, though? You were talking about that.
I'll call the question. I move that we approve the resolution for the adoption of Clackamas County fiscal year 2025 through 2026 budget with the appropriations of $1,355,022,745, a total budget amount of $1,506,510,895, and that the general government limitation property tax be $2.4042 per 1,000 of assessed value for the permanent tax rate of Clackamas County, City, 2.9766 per 1,000 of assessed value for the permanent tax rate of Clackamas County, Rural, and 0.3680 per 1,000 for local option taxes, and a general obligation bond debt service of $6,110,000, which is excluded from the limitation.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, so, all right. So Commissioner West has moved to approve the resolution for the adoption of the Clackamas County fiscal year 2025-2026 budget with the appropriations of $1,355,022,745, a total budget amount of $1,506,510,895, and that the general fund limitation property tax be 2.4042 per thousand of assessed value for the permanent tax rate of Clackamas County. The city is 2.9766 per thousand of assessed value for the permanent tax rate of Clackamas County, rural, of 0.3680 per thousand for local option taxes, and a general obligation bond debt service of $6,110,000, which is excluded from the limitation, and Commissioner Helm has seconded that motion. And further discussion or comments?
Chair, I know this is going to be really confusing for the public, and I'll take full responsibility for explaining my no vote, because it's going to be very difficult, but be as it may, I just want to say that, repeat, you probably heard this already, but, you know, we have appropriated proper monies to fulfill the levy. Those positions are not being filled, I am very concerned. I will actually going to seek whatever counsel I have and seeing if, frankly, if budget law is really being violated, or somehow we're violating at least the will of the voters of the measure that provided the positions of those deputies, as well as sending the wrong message to the public and to the staff in the sheriff's office that somehow their positions aren't being funded when they indeed are. But it just feels to me that appropriating the monies and having them not spent is contrary to everything the budget stands for.
I agree.
Okay.
So mine's more of a protest, and not against the staff here at the county, not against any of my colleagues on the commission. It's this circumstance, and I know we made motions that are going to rectify this and give us greater financial control. But, you know, frankly, I've said this before, it's been a long time, but I think we ought to consider line item every position in the sheriff's office ought to be line item to show that it's funded.
Yeah.
Because a layoff essentially, I don't see how we could, Gary, how you could approve a layoff when there's monies there and it's appropriated. That's wrong.
I've not approved anything yet, Commissioner.
I understand that, but you have a request for that. And that's what's troubling me.
All right. Are you finished? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner West has a comment.
I fully respect the protest vote. I am going to urge at least three of us, I'm going to vote yes, not out of disagreement, but out of being practical.
Yeah.
We have to pass the budget today, and we have, like you said, we have all these other things going forward. So I respect and empathize with your position, and I don't even disagree with it. But I would urge us to find a vote to 3 today so we can move forward. And also, this isn't the first or last vote we're going to be taking on this budget, considering the numerous recommendations that did come out of Budget Committee, out of that 12 hours. So I'm going to urge a yes vote, just so we can continue to do the work while also respecting my colleague in the position he's in.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Helm.
I understand Commissioner Savas's protest vote fully. I will be reluctantly voting yes, with the understanding that these numbers are going to be made right in a pretty short amount of time, I hope, as we delve into it. So that's where I stand.
All right, thank you. Just a couple comments, and boy, I will tell you, I have had to think about this a lot, and I've had a lot of conversation with Gary, really wholeheartedly have the total best intentions to work hard to bring us together as a board, as the 2 finance departments, of really trying to do what's best for all of us. Just a couple comments. I mean, I will reluctantly support the adoption of this budget as the new fiscal year is really just upon us. However, I do want to express that I don't agree with the Sheriff's Office's proposed budget being reduced during the Budget Committee meetings. I had said that. I firmly believe this will have an impact on services. I know Gary's going to work closely to make sure that they're hiring all we can. But I also want to share some ideas about generate how we might improve the budget process going forward. So I can just tell you, when I ran for sheriff, and I was sheriff for all those years, and Martha can probably relate to this because we were going toe to toe on it. But each and every year was kind of a challenge. And so when I heard the courthouse was going on, I said, "Oh my gosh, where's the money coming from?" Because it's already it was a struggle. So without any cost of a new courthouse for 16 years as sheriff, I just really fought hard each and every year to just maintain the staff we had, and then saw that the only time we really got staffing was when we passed a public safety levy or our contract cities saw the need for more police officers and they'd add them. So where I believe the county's at, we're going to continue to face financial uncertainties as we pay for the courthouse, we deal with the uncertainty of both federal and state funding, and any possible downturns in the national economy, which is a big concern, I think, for all of us. We know families are struggling right now. So all these issues pose really a significant challenges in balancing this budget each and every year. And this year's no exception. So to ease this burden and I believe to allow us to make better decisions, I'm really asking to really all of us kind of work with Gary and Finance Department to focus on really a 5-year forecasting financial plan for board adoption. This would occur after input from department heads and elected officials. This will lay out an economic expectations, a longer period than 1 year to process that allows. This 5-year approach is really considered a best practice by Government Finance Officers Association, that's GFOA, and is one I believe we should practice. I do relate to Paul and also wanting to look at that 30-year forecast, but I think where we're at each and every year right now is, can we add any positions? And I think, Gary, as we've talked about, to really trying to narrow down on a shorter-term financial forecasting would be beneficial. So we could get that updated each and every year. I think it would really help us. I think that really what my frustration is that that in the final hours of funding decisions, really at the 11th hour, we were trying to make decisions on positions, and we had people come on before us, and to me, I would like to have that earlier in the year to have discussions about, I know Commissioner West had some great ideas. We also had some challenges with North Clackamas Parks, and we knew some of those issues were coming. So I think on top of it, I also really believe that everybody has the best intentions in mind, but I just can't say that from an outsider kind of looking in, it was different interpretations of and expectations. I do believe the sheriff was going forward in hiring, but yet there's also expectations to be living within those means. And so I think what would help us at the end of this is just at the conclusion of this, writing down what are those kind of expectations. Gary and I have talked a little bit about that. And then we can get updates throughout the year really on those things. So I just can't emphasize enough that on behalf of the public, we really do need to unite on the issues of funding, and just looking at 1 year at a time individually makes these incremental decisions along the way pretty difficult. So I do recognize this conflict and tension, and my hope is that I really am working with all of you to help kind of find this common ground. And I do appreciate county finance, Gary, and everybody really working hard to come to this. So I must have said something because a lot of lights came on. So I don't know. Looks like Christmas back here.
I know.
But maybe I'll start with you.
I can start. Mine's quick. I just want to clarify, especially in today's political climate, and how much we absolutely prioritize and value law enforcement as a critical function and a moral priority, that we are proud of our Clackamas County Sheriff's Department. We did not reduce the budget. And to say we reduced the sheriff's budget is a little touchy, because we increased it by $4 million. Somebody can make any ask they want. They can do the Christmas tree ask. They can ask for a blue pony with peppermint breath. But it doesn't mean that they're going to get the blue pony with peppermint breath, right? And as much and sweet and kind and cuddly as the pony is, you're not always going to get the pony for Christmas or for your birthday. But we still increased the overall budget from the previous years by $4 million. And then on top of that, it continues to increase every single budget cycle, and it's about 2/3 of our overall budget, actually more than 2/3 of our overall budget. So I do want to just be very clear about our priorities here, and that in my opinion, it is clear and objective by the numbers. It was an increase in her budget, not a reduction.
Okay.
Just want to go
Thank
down
you,
the
Commissioner.
line.
Oh, I'm going to go down the line if it's okay with you, Paul.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
So, and I do appreciate you, Craig, but yeah, Ben, you made the point. I took out the graph the 71% of the sheriff's office is our budget. And the district attorney and the courthouse are both, well, the district attorney's office is like 15.7, and the courthouse is 15, which we've built into the budget. And one of the things we face this year is if we increase the sheriff's, when we did increase the sheriff's budget, but with those extra asks, we would have, it would have blown up the budget. And I'm going to remind people that the courthouse is a significant piece of public safety. Our judges have been begging us since 2003 to build a courthouse. I was one of the 4 Democrats who voted for that, okay, and took the risk to do so because it's politically incorrect for me to call the old courthouse a death trap, but it was. I'm sorry. It was a mess. We had to do something. We did it. And we're doing it within a balanced budget. But we're going to have payments, and we're going to have to stick to those payments in order to keep the budget balanced. It's just the way it goes. And without the courthouse, the folks that the people do, come on, Craig, folks that people do on the street in terms of getting criminals prosecuted and put away wasn't going to happen. And you can get people arrested, but then you got to have that courthouse. You have to have a decent facility that moves people through to make sure that justice is served. So that's just my little take on that. And I really think, frankly, we've done an excellent job with the sheriff's office and the district attorney and the courthouse because you can't have them in isolation. It's all part of the continuum. So anyway, I will finally not say another word.
Oh, you're
promise,
fine,
okay?
Martha. I love hearing from you.
Okay.
And then Commissioner Savas.
Well, I just want to just appreciate Commissioner West covering half my argument is that there has not been a decrease, the sheriff's office, and an increase. And I think if we don't really acknowledge that, Chair, I think it kind of is disrespectful to everyone involved, right? $4 million of public money additional to the sheriff's office. That's an investment. So please, let's recognize that. Secondly, I shared with you, others shared, and I want to make this perfectly clear. Talked to auditors. A friend of mine owns a well-known auditing firm in the state of Oregon, and I talked to him about it too. If you want to have a 5-year forecast, just look at the 30-year forecast and look at the 5 years. It's been explained to me, Commissioner, if you want a 5-year forecast and not a 30-year, just take some scissors and cut off the other 25 years. It's identical. There's no difference. If you want a 5-year forecast and someone wants to hide what will happen after 10 years or 12 years or 35, then maybe a 5-year forecast might be political convenience for 5 years. But what was presented put us in the hole $249 million in 30 years. That's what was presented on November 27th. Is that right, Gary?
That is, yes, that's one interpretation, yes.
So I think, are you finished, Paul? I didn't want to cut you off. Yeah. I think just to kind of respond to both your guys' questions, I am the guy in the middle here, it looks like, that you are correct. It is an increase, right? But this is how I look at it. And I worked with a number of county administrators, which I loved them all, right? And they were all very different. And a couple years, we had a 0% increase. We had a 1% increase. We had a 2%. From my perspective, that was a cut because it didn't substantiate or meet the needs of whatever the contract was negotiated. So in order to balance my budget, it was a cut. I mean, I had to figure out, okay, a 1%, that isn't going to cover a lot of different things, or a 2% or 3%. So even though maybe it was a 1% more in the union contract, right? It really was a little cut. If there's something else in there so I think we're speaking the same language. We're just looking at it a little different ways. And so that's, again, where it's my hope, we're sitting down, we're working on this together. And I think what happens is, this is my philosophy, and I made a challenge to John Mante, that guy, I admired him. And you remember John? And John was a financial wizard, and John said that, I said, listen, I can get to full staffing, but you have to grant me these things. And I basically said, you have to let me overhire, let me create a plan with our union so that they will give us a 1-year notice if they're going to leave, because people would walk out the door and, I'd just be down. And so we did work towards that direction of, hey, working with the union, give us a year's notice, and then we started. And we actually did get to it. It didn't last very long because we ran into financial challenges. So I think a lot of times the issue that we should be having the discussion is, how many positions do you want to fund and fill? And really sit down on that, because there were a number of years where I had to just keep some open just to balance the budget. So again, I think we're speaking a lot of the same language. My goal is to work with everybody on this. And I think, Ben, if you're ready to call for it, I think we can. Or I guess we've already done that, so it's time for. Yeah, so. Clerk, yeah.
I'll just end with this, I'll call the vote, but I respect you a lot, Chair, and we have a lot of commonalities. I just think I see this a little differently than you do. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse over this. And so a lot of horse references for me today. But yeah, so I'll call the question, or call the vote.
Okay. Clerk?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
No.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1, Mr. Chair.
All right, Gary. I'm
You
afraid
have
to
one
ask
more
what's-
public hearing and 7 pages of consent items. Do you want to take a lunch break or keep going?
Well, let's get this B done before we go to and then we'll take a lunch break. Can
Aye.
we do that?
Isn't
I
the
agree
next,
Yes.
the next public
Sorry.
hearing is pretty,
Sorry,
it's
not to
pretty.
get all bossy or
It's not
anything,
nearly
but-
what we just did.
Well, I'm not sure, commissioners. Will you surprise me? It should be short. I'm not sure.
This should be.
Should move on, commissioners?
B should be easy.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's go a little bit longer. Is
Okay,
that-
you're still meeting as the Board of Commissioners. Public hearing number 2, item B, approval of a resolution for adoption of Clackamas County fiscal year 2025-2026, changed fees and fines. Funding is through fees and fines. No county general funds are involved. Sandra or Elizabeth, go ahead, please.
Okay. We respectfully request approval of the proposed fiscal year 25-26 changed fees and fines.
Questions, colleagues? Right, I don't see any. So I will now open the second of 2 public hearings. This hearing is on item B, the fees and fines. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person or virtual testimony for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this specific agenda item, this is your opportunity to please fill out a blue card and deposit in the box by the door. Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public physically present who wish to comment on this specific item, with your assent, I'll now move to those attending virtually. If you're attending this meeting virtually and would like to comment on this specific agenda item, I'll now ask you to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call to please raise your hand if you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to speak on this item. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtual, wish to comment on this specific matter today.
All right, I will now close the public hearing on this item. Any further discussion? In both ways, there's seeing none. Is there a motion on the fines and fees?
I move we approve the Clackamas County fiscal year 2025-2026 fees and fines as presented.
Second.
Right, I have the 2 ladies making motions here in second. So Commissioner Helm has moved to approve the Clackamas County fiscal year 2025-2026 fees and fines as presented. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the poll.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Gary, what's next?
How long of a break would you like to take?
It's 7 pages, right? The
20
consent
20
agenda?
It's actually only 6, but yeah.
feel
It's-
sorry for you.
It's lengthy. And then you have Commissioner Communications.
20 minutes.
I have stuff to report today.
I would pose this. Would it be all right if we took a 5 or 10-minute break and jump back in, or would you like a longer one?
It's probably almost a 20-minute read.
How about 20?
20 minutes?
Do I hear 25? Okay. How about, we'll take Gary,
I
a
don't wanna be
20-minute?
chewing when
Is
I
that all
come
right?
back.
Minutes, so 1:40 PM. We start at 1:40 PM.
1:40.
Okay? Yep.
All right, we'll reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm going to turn to Gary.
Is your mic on,
Chair,
Chair?
I'm afraid your mic is not on.
Here we go.
Might want to repeat that.
Thank you, everybody. We're now reconvening as the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm going to turn over to Gary on our next agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. Only about 4 hours more of the meeting to go. JK. Just kidding, that's what the kids say today, JK. All right. We're next at the consent agenda for Clackamas County.
Oh, here we go.
It's a long one. Please let Andrew finish. Don't trip him up while he goes. He'll be great. Andrew, would you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. Item A, elected officials. 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. 2, approval of a grant application to the United States Department of Justice for enhanced investigation and prosecution of domestic violence and other crimes. Application value is $500,000 for 3 years. Funding is through the United States Department of Justice. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of a board order for appointment of Justice Court pro tempore judges. Appointment has no fiscal impact. Appointment length is 1 year. Funding is through Justice Court fines. No county general funds are involved. B, finance. 1, approval of a lease amendment with RC Enterprises for the current Oak Lodge Library facility to allow additional time for transfers to the new library building. Lease value is $16,401.40 for 2 months. Funding is through budgeted Library Service District property tax revenue. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of a lease amendment with Gladstone School District Number 115 for the Gladstone Health Center and the Gladstone Pediatric Dental Clinic. Amendment value is $323,958.60 for 5 years. Total lease value is $670,951.39 for 10 years. Funding is through Health Centers service fees. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of a lease amendment with Emmanuel Lutheran Church for the Sandy Health Clinic parking lot lease. Amendment value is $48,734.46 for 5 years. Total lease value is $76,798.46 for 8 years. Funding is through Health Centers service fees. No county general funds are involved. C, public and government affairs. 1, approval of a contract amendment with Summit Strategies for federal lobbying services. Amendment value is $300,000 for 2 years. Total contract value is $449,000 for 3 years. Funding is through franchise fee revenue. D, juvenile. 1, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with Marion County for guaranteed juvenile detention beds. Amendment value is 2 years. Total agreement value is $1,588,000 for 4 years. Funding is through the Oregon Youth Authority and $262,839 in budgeted county general funds. E, transportation development. 1, approval of an amendment to the supplemental project agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Canby Ferry Intelligent Transportation System project. Amendment value is $127,741.65. Total agreement value is $1,167,020.42 for 8 years. Funding is through the United States Department of Transportation and county road funds. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Oregon City to transfer a portion of South Beaver Creek Road. Agreement value is $997,000 in a one-time payment. Funding is through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the University of Oregon for staff participation in international travel through the Scan Design Fellows Program. Agreement value is $20,000 for 3 months. Funding is through the University of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. 4, approval of a goods and services contract with PNW Locating for underground utility locating. Contract value is $250,000 for 2 years. Funding is through county road funds. No county general funds are involved. 5, approval of a personal services contract with Kearns and West for the Sunrise Corridor Coalition Building Project. Contract value is $199,980 for 18 months. Funding is through Oregon House Bill 5006 funds. No county general funds are involved. F, Health, Housing, and Human Services. 1. Approval of an amendment to a contract with YKC Hospitality for on-call hotel rooms used as temporary housing. Amendment value is $1,200,625 for 1 year. Total contract value is $2,448,125 for 2 years. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 2. Approval of an amendment to a personal services contract with the Father's Heart Street Ministry for shelter, housing navigation, case management, stable housing connections, and inclement weather services. Amendment value is $5,790,465.40 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $14,504,234.24 for 3 years. Funding is through Supportive Housing Services Measure funds, and $362,912 of budgeted county general funds. 3. Approval of personal services contract with Northwest Enforcement Incorporated for unarmed security at Tukwila Springs Apartments. Contract value is $221,532.84 for 1 year. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 4. Approval of a local subrecipient agreement with Love One for drug possession charge deflection program participant services. Agreement value is $1,914,675 for 3 years and 3 months. Funding is through Oregon House Bills 4002 and 5204. No county general funds are involved. 5. Approval of a personal services contract with the Native American Rehabilitation Association of the Northwest for Tukwila Springs Resident Case Management Services. Contract value is $326,216 for 1 year. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Service Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 6. Approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with ClackCo Service Center for the Housing Assistance and Resilience for Tenants program. Contract value is $450,000 for 1 year. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 7. Approval of a personal services contract with Love One for homeless outreach, engagement, and support services under a new contract format. Contract value is $3,729,757 for 1 year. Funding is through Supportive Housing Services Measure funds and Oregon Senate Bill 5511 grant funds. No county general funds are involved. 8. Approval of personal services contract with the Father's Heart Street Ministry for Tukwila Springs Resident Services. Contract value is $300,928 for 6 months. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 9. Approval of a local subrecipient agreement with Northwest Family Services for health-related rental and utility payment assistance programs. Agreement value is $189,345 for 9 months. Funding is through Health Share of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. 10. Approval of an amendment to a personal services contract with Northwest Family Services for case management services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Amendment value is $600,000 for 1 year. Total contract value is $1,284,997 for 18 months. Funding is through Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 11. Approval of an amendment to a personal services contract with the ClackCo Service Center for site-based homeless outreach and on-call emergency services. Amendment value is $298,853 for 1 year. Total contract value is $1,524,354.47 for 3 years and 8 months. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. 12. Approval of the 2025 Community Development Action Plan, including applications for funding from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development through the Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership Grant, and Emergency Solutions Grant funds. Grant value is $3,234,394.29 for 7 years. Funding is through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved. 13. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Gladstone School District for a student mental health specialist embedded at Gladstone High School. Agreement value is $61,500 for 1 year. Funding is through the Gladstone School District. No county general funds are involved. 14. Approval of an award renewal for an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon for the fiscal year 2025-2027 Clackamas County Community Development Disability Program and Services. Total agreement value is $30,346,566 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services and $136,724 in budgeted county general funds. 15, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for forensic evaluations. Amendment value adjusts funding source only and has no fiscal impact. Agreement value remains $17,509,981.22 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. 16, approval of a services agreement with Health Share of Oregon for health assessments, maternal and child health services, and communicable diseases prevention services to Medicaid members. Agreement value is $870,416 for 1 year. Funding is through Health Share of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. 17, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services for Jobs, Opportunity, and Basic Skills Program. Amendment value is $1,360,586.77 for 2 years. Total agreement value is $3,960,381 for 6 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that concludes the consent agenda.
Wow, thank you, Andrea. You did a great job. So, colleagues, do you wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Thank you. I'm not seeing anyone wanting to do that, so may I have a motion, please?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
All right, wonderful. Commissioner Helm has moved to approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Chair Roberts.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
Again, thank you very much, Andrew. So now I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners, convene as the Water Environmental Services Board of Directors, and I will turn to Gary. What's up?
Thank you, Chair. This is the Water Environment Services consent agenda. Andrew, would you please read the consent agenda?
Water Environment Services Consent Agenda. Item A, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Oregon City for reconfiguration and maintenance of existing stormwater pipe. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. B, approval of use of a cooperative sourcewell contract with Caterpillar for repair of the Kellogg Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility cogeneration engine. Contract value is $332,468.69. Funding is through Water Environment Services Sanitary Sewer Construction Fund. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that concludes the Water Environment Services consent agenda.
Right, thank you. Would anyone like to remove any item from the consent agenda? I'm seeing no. So may I have a motion?
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
All right, Director West has moved to approve the West consent agenda, seconded by Director Savas. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll on that?
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, I will now adjourn as the Water Environmental Services Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary.
Next is County Administrator update. I will pass on my report today due to the time. Back to you, Chair.
Great. And, oops, make sure I'm on the right page. I've page 34 here. So it's now a point in time for Commissioner Communication, and I will start with Commissioner Schrader. Would you like to make any comments?
Let me just mention that this weekend is the Lakewood Festival of the Arts, which is going to be really fantastic. And it includes a tent with art from all over the area, from various artists. I usually end up with some more pieces for my home, which I already have too many to bring home, but there's some wonderful artwork there, and I would encourage people to go to that. What they're going to be talking about this year is art in animation. So I guess they're going to be having folks that specialize in that. Will Vinton comes to mind when he did those kinds of things. So there'll be a whole display on that. George Rogers Park is going to be open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with, again, artwork, jewelry, you name it, anything to do. And they usually have a large tent with music and libations as well. And the big patron party is going to be Thursday night, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then on Saturday, I will be a docent at the Lakewood Theater area, helping people go through the art exhibits. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am going to be getting a briefing on, which is a totally different topic. Basically, I attend our disaster preparedness kind of regional group, and they're going to be giving us a presentation on the Portland Spirit. So they're taking us on a boat ride and giving us a presentation on current practices and how to respond to disaster on a boat ride. So that should be somewhat interesting, I think.
When is that?
And that's coming up, I think, Friday, I guess, right? So yeah, so I'll be doing that. And other than that, yeah, that's pretty much what I've got to tell folks. I'm glad we're done with the budget. And I am prepping right now with Tony. After this, I'll be prepping because I've been asked by the National Association to be part of a panel on housing and childcare and what we're doing for folks here in Clackamas County. So I'm going through all the information, the material. I've got all of 12 minutes with 6 slides. Okay, so it's going to have to be short and sweet, but that's what they do, and then they'll pepper us with questions. So if you're going to NACO, I think you are going, Ben, right? I don't know if anybody else is at this point, but yeah, if you get a chance to get me to, watch what I do with those folks. I'm going to be doing a lot of contacts there because I'm going to be running for president, a second VP, vice president of NACO, which means that I have to attend as many of the regional groups meetings as possible. They probably already know who I am, I think. I guess I'll be surprised if not, but we'll find out in order to, gauge the temperature and hopefully move forward with that and do some more work for us at the national level. So.
Very nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'm going to forego most of my comments that I had, but I do want to say, number one, give you an update. The letter that we approved yesterday to the Joint Committee on Transportation, all the mayors, with the exception of one we could not reach, has signed the letter. So that's good news, and that letter was sent yesterday, or this morning. And my comments are that I do want to just share today is just thinking about the last 15 years and all the relationships and people that I've met along the way, whether it's here at the county or other organizations or the volunteers, and to see some of those people in the audience from time to time is refreshing, and to see them out in our county, it's always nice, and to learn of a passing of a friend last week was something that kind of triggered these thoughts where I just reminisce about all the people we've met and worked with. A lot of great people. There's just, I think if I've learned anything in my 15 years at the county level, is just how many good folks are out there doing great work. And speaking of which, Jane, today's your last day, right? And you're one of those great people, so I want to just say thank you for your service. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and you are a hard-working, dedicated individual, and I really appreciate the fact that you are always accessible when we had a question or we needed help. You were right there, so I just want to you're a hard worker, so you were always there for us, so thank you, and I wish you the best.
All right, thank you. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to use my time to give an update for SHS. But before I do that, I know I was gone for a few weeks, and I hate having to be away, but I'm an officer in the United States Navy Reserve, and I was in San Diego serving on the USN Mercy and with my unit there. And we do not just medical support if we get into some type of conflict, but we're also humanitarian and respond to disasters or natural disaster crises. And so there's 2 ships in the Mercy class. There is the one I serve on, which is the one that was stationed out of San Diego. And there's also the Comfort, which is on the East Coast. And so when wearing the Navy uniform, I don't always get to choose when I am called up to go do this service. I'm glad to be home. I know that maybe some were wondering where I was, so I just wanted to be clear that I was still doing public service for you, but just in a different capacity, and wanted to just let everyone know I'm very happy to be home and back on the dais with my colleagues doing this work. Also, I think I need to give you guys an update. We had our last SHS meeting, that is the Supportive Housing Service Task Force, where I was the co-chair with President of Metro Lynn Peterson, where we convened regional electeds and leaders and service providers from all over the Portland metro area, and we were trying to work to fix many of the chronic issues within the SHS services that are provided across the region. And we covered a number of issues. And so there are some new things to report to the board. The last meeting was interesting. There was unveiled Metro's proposed new governance model. So right now we're in an IGA, we're in a governance model with the other 3 counties in Metro. And I think everybody in the room was scratching their head a little bit because it came across as, and Chair, you were there, and so please feel free to correct me if I'm not perceiving this correctly, but we got word of this change an hour before the meeting. The PowerPoint and the documentation for the meeting came out. So us electeds in the room, we weren't able to even review or really comment on it. I was co-chair on it. I frankly, to be honest, didn't see these governance model changes that were being proposed by Metro. It's very, very complicated. It is very bureaucratic, and it is perceived to be very slow in response for accountability and transparency. And I think that that was maybe the consensus of most of us in the room. I understand the effort that Metro's trying to get at. The current system is broken, and we all recognize that. That's not a controversial thing to say, but it was, originally it was gonna be 2 different committees that kind of work on oversight for how those funds are spent and how services are being provided to that population. It expanded to 3, and it wasn't quite sure who did what or what was going on. So a lot to still be discovered on any governance model changes. Now, we all agree we need a change in the governance. That's not controversial, like I said. I'm not quite sure we're there yet with what was proposed by Metro and by President Peterson. Though I do appreciate our efforts and we hope to collaborate on that, but we have a long ways to go in the governance model. I don't know if you guys saw the article that came out just before the last SHS meeting. The polling overall for the voter confidence when addressing homelessness, housing, substance use disorder is abysmal. There is one bright spot in the polling, though, and I'm going to read just a little snippet from the article that was reported. It says, voters are also skeptical of their local governments. Only 41% have a favorable view of Metro, which assesses, collects, and distributes the homeless services tax. Just 29% of Multnomah County voters have a favorable view of their county government, according to the summary of the poll results. In contrast, 62% of Clackamas County voters have a favorable view of our county. No other government or jurisdiction in the region is close. Whatever we're doing here is working, obviously. It's breaking through a little bit within the polling data. But I think that governance model is an issue, and how convoluted and bureaucratic that was is maybe also why there's some consternation with the voters on SHS. I spoke to the audit. Now, I came before the board and I asked this board to maybe be open to doing a robust audit of our system, which we're very confident of, to not only just try to build that voter trust, but also because it should be being done. Now, there was a lot of angst around doing a system regional audit. We don't have an elected auditor, but the elected auditors out of Metro, Multnomah County, and Washington County didn't like the fact that we were using the word audit, so then we had to create a euphemism to call it a system review so that they would be appeased, and then the service providers didn't like the accountability piece that was associated with it. And so as we had these good intentions to lead the region and being more transparent with these tax dollars, because the polling clearly shows that the voters don't trust us, I'm concerned that they are not nearly going to do what our expectation would be in Clackamas County. I expressed that we needed to be much more robust in that effort to look for inefficiencies, how programming is working, and to really have something that was begin to at least, I think for us, like where we need to fix it, obviously, and like where we could go better, and then to also show how good we're doing, and to lead the rest of the region to do that. I still think as a county, we might need to do it on our own again. And I think we're probably going to participate in whatever regional system review or whatever they want to call it. It's clearly not going far enough, in my opinion. I still think that maybe if we lead and say we're doing it this way, that maybe some of the other counties, like we're going to join Clackamas or we're going to follow the suit or do something that mirrors it. We clearly are having this conversation because two large entities are incompetent in dealing with this issue. The city of Portland and Multnomah County is why we're still having this conversation the way we're having it. It makes it tough to continue to do what we're doing when we're tied to that. Metro did just basically put out there in their last meeting this week that they are changing the indexing on when you get hit with the SHS tax based on your income. So that is increasing, so there will be a reduction of some funding based on the indexing. I'm told it's only around 4 million total for the region, so it's not huge, but that's kind of the nibble around the edges because the polling is so bad and they don't have, because what they want to do is do a significant tax cut, but they also want to extend it for like another 30 years. And it was funny, you will look at the polling, the more you talk to it about the voters, the angrier they got, and then the worse the polling got. And so then it just got from like we're not really feeling good about this, I'm annoyed at you, to like, get off my lawn. Like, it was kind of the vibe that we were getting from the polling. I don't think Metro's gonna go out right now because we can't have it fail. So there's more of this going forward. This task force may be done, but I think at least Chair Roberts and I are going to be tasked in additional things going forward. I think that we'll be tasked to be part of whatever oversight's going on. But I do think, and I've said this publicly already, and it isn't necessarily popular, we have to start being prepared now, board, for if this craters and we have to go it alone. We built a system from nothing with these funds, and we have clearly been much more credible than the rest of the region. I don't think Clackamas County residents want to see what we've built completely crater because two large entities have dragged the rest of us down. And so that may look like a tax increase. That may look like some type of creative funding structure. That may look like, creating our own system and saying thanks but no thanks, but we are responsible to our voters. It's not working regionally because it's impossible based on the realities up north. So I think that's what I came with this. I didn't get done with this task force feeling more confident about where we were going. I think the relationship we have with the Metro is really strong right now. I think we do have good regional partners. I think the cities agree with us. I think all the other cities that are outside of Clackamas County, which they were in Clackamas County, just specifically with how we've treated our cities. So that's my wrap up on it. I would love your guys' feedback, or maybe we have maybe we have time to talk about it in the future, but what does this look like if it's inevitable that this SHS tax sunsets? What if? I don't want to see us ramp down. I want to see us maybe be able to pivot. The climate is not great, but at least we have some good polling that people have some more trust in us than they do in our partners. So,
Can you forward that article? I looked for it in
Yeah.
my email the other day.
Gary, dude, it's PGA. Have it up there.
Yeah, it was in the news clips.
It was in the news. It was in the news. Do you have the news columns?
It's a
It's in the
news
news
site.
columns.
Yeah, but I looked and I couldn't find the news.
Tony will get it for you. Yeah. So that's what I have. Is I don't know if you guys have any questions for me as we walk through this, or for Chair Roberts. I don't know, Chair, you might have. I know you're going to speak today too about commissioner comments, but you were there pretty much the whole time with me. Yeah, that's all I got for you guys, unless you guys have any questions for me.
No, the only thing I'd just like to say thank you for stepping up and being that vice chair. And I know it's a time commitment, and I think it's great to have Clackamas County represented there. So I know you've been working hard on that.
We
So-
worked hard on it, but we made no commitments that were
I know, that's
not
the
right
first.
for our county. But we are definitely in the room trying to get there.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Helm, did I skip you, Paul?
Nope.
No, okay, I was just thinking, okay, good, I'm sorry.
So I don't have really anything personal to add, but I do want to just make a couple comments about, I do think we need to be looking at doing our own thing. And if we could disconnect from the Metro model and do our own, go on our own way, and utilize those dollars the way we see fit, and spread them throughout our county instead of being held to just this certain portion that's in Metro, I think would better serve our county as well. And it may not be a tax increase. It may be a shift to some degree than what's happening right now. So I would like to explore that further too, especially as we read through this consent agenda, and so many of those SHS funds were part of that, and the programs they're supporting, and the good they're doing, and that there is a visible difference in our county.
Yeah.
And the people in Portland are not seeing it. They're not seeing action. They don't know where their money's going because they're not seeing a difference. So we have spent our money wisely, and we have supported the service providers that are doing good boots on the ground work out there. So I would love to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, one of the
too.
things that are maybe just starting to boil is like, why isn't there just an intergovernmental agreement with competent counties?
Yeah.
I call it the Competent County Coalition. I have no idea what we call it, but
That's a good name.
maybe it's Yamhill, Marion, and Clackamas join up and say we are going to do it this way. Maybe it's Clackamas, Washington. Maybe we find a different coalition. But if we got to be effective where we can be effective and pragmatic, and it's not up. And there is a huge push to reallocate the funding. To say, well, Portland and Multnomah County need more funding, so now Clackamas County, you have to use your tax dollars and pull it from your county and give it to the city of Portland and give it to, there was still a push for that. And we were like, well, we'll see you in court. There's no way, there's absolutely no way that we're going to pull from our system that's working and have to reallocate it from our taxpayers in our county towards a problem. There's no capacity for that. They keep trying to like give that as an option. Mayor Wilson was trying a little bit yesterday. In some of the Multnomah County, we were like, well, that's dead on arrival, and so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But that is some of the conversation that they were just trying to like now pull from the other counties to give more funding to Multnomah and Portland.
Big buckets.
Did you have anything
That's
else?
it.
I didn't want
That's
to
it.
jump. In the interest of time, we've had such a long day, I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. But I did want to express my thanks to County Administrator Gary Schmidt, his staff, all the policy analysts, all the folks that have really worked hard to put this day together. It wasn't an easy task. I know they were really working behind the scenes, and thank all my colleagues, for all the time they put in to get ready for this. So with that, I'm going to let us out of here as early, huh? So with that being said, on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you for joining us today, and there's no further business. This meeting is adjourned.